The title is right at the top of the screen, and just as we dive in, the teacher claps her hands and announces that class is finally over. Layla lets out a huge sigh and stretches her arms, finally relaxing now that she's totally finished. After grinding through work and classes, she finally survived the week and definitely deserves a trophy. But right before she can even hit save, Yui totally kills the vibe by pointing at the massive pile of dishes and ordering her to start scrubbing right now. Later, on the walk home, Yui starts nagging again, complaining that all Layla does is eat and eat. She asks why Layla is even in a cooking class if she's too lazy. She flashes a super awkward smile to end the conversation, way too embarrassed to admit that Yui basically dragged her to these classes in the first place. Yui sighs and goes into full lecture mode, warning Layla that her laziness is going to catch up to her eventually. Layla just nods with a forced smile, thinking Yui is acting like a total mom again, and even though she really appreciates the help, it's definitely a lot. Listening to advice is one thing, but actually changing who you are is a whole different story. Once you're sucked into a life like this, escaping feels totally impossible, so she finally decides to just walk away and retire. She gets back to her apartment alone and stops dead because the place is a total disaster zone, with trash and clothes scattered everywhere. Even with her rock-bottom standards, she's actually feeling embarrassed because she knows this is a total disaster. She finally gets why Yui is always on her case, and honestly, it's just straight-up embarrassing for a 25-year-old woman. She just sighs and makes that same old promise, telling herself that tomorrow she'll finally do it. She's scrubbing everything clean, but she has no clue that tomorrow is never coming, and then her foot. His foot slips on a crushed can and the whole world starts to tilt. Layla slams into the floor and stares at the ceiling as pain rips through her, leaving her gasping for air while everything starts to go dark. Her head is spinning, but she knows right then that everything is about to change forever. Starting right now, she's finally going to live a totally normal life like a regular person. Then, out of nowhere, she's falling, and Layla suddenly wakes up in a... She's totally freaking out as the wind screams past her and the sky just goes on forever. Look up. She's falling from way up in the sky, and you're probably wondering how she got there, but nope, she's 100% dead meat, and all she can think is, well, crap. Honestly, she's so over it that she just wants to pass out and leave this world in peace. But the pain never hits, and when she sits up totally shocked, she realizes she's still alive. But her hand, you feel something hard and scaly under her, but that's definitely not the ground. And suddenly a deep voice starts to rumble. Something rumbles nearby, and Layla slowly freezes right in her tracks. She gets a total chill down her back and turns around, only to find a massive dragon staring her right in the face. She's totally paralyzed. If she runs, she'll fall to her death. But if she stays put, she's definitely getting eaten alive. That's her fate, and she's seriously praying she's knocked out cold when it finally happens. She finally wakes up in a massive field of the most beautiful flowers she's ever seen, and looking at the bright sun and perfect sky, she wonders if she actually made it to heaven. She's just glad that dying didn't actually hurt that much. But then a voice suddenly asks her a question. A voice asks if she's awake. Her eyes snap open in shock, and when she stays silent, it asks again until she finally screams her head off. She's trapped in a nightmare, calling the dragon in front of her a total monster as the beast looms over her. Dragon jumps back, totally offended, and snaps that they're being super rude since he's a dragon, not a monster. A dragon! That makes her freeze, and now that he's pointed it out and she's looking closer, she realizes he's right. He's totally right. But a dragon? That's insane. I guess being in the afterlife explains it, and now the dragon is asking who she is. She answers on autopilot, saying her name is Layla, she's 25, and she's just an office worker who grew up in Japan. Her secret talent is literally sleeping anywhere, but she's got some major weaknesses too. The dragon tilts his giant head and cuts her off, having absolutely no clue what she's even talking about. Layla stares at him totally confused, wondering if he's Chinese, but when she asks if he speaks Japanese, he just blinks and asks what that even is, leaving her brain. Her brain totally short-circuits, and as she mumbles that not understanding each other is a huge problem, he shuts her down and says they actually get each other perfectly. She demands to know what the problem is, but he just stays chill and tells her she's using way too many words he doesn't even understand. Layla stops to think, decides to keep it simple, and just tells him her name is Layla. But when he tries to say it back, She shuts him down immediately. It's Layla, she corrects him, but he totally fails again, so she just stares him down and sighs like, whatever, close enough. He looks satisfied and moves on, asking why she was falling from the sky, and she starts to give him her explanation. She gave him a shy, nervous grin and told him she was actually about to ask him the same thing. All she remembers is her head getting smacked. Then she suddenly wakes up. She's literally falling through the sky. Her brain is totally spinning. What is she even supposed to do? Everything else is... Yui's definitely freaking out right now because her job is toast, and she let down her friends and parents. She completely blew it, and in the end, everything is just a total mess. She just tells him the straight-up truth, and while she has no clue what he's thinking, he tells her to just stay put for a bit. Oh boy. Layla finally snaps out of it and looks around, totally confused. But when she asks where she is, he tells her the truth. This is Dragon King Castle. This is the epic capital city of the Dragon Kingdom. He reminds her she said she could sleep anywhere, so she snaps to attention with a dead serious look, confirming that's basically her specialty. He tells her she can crash in any corner of the castle until she figures out where to go next. He says he's on it and then shouts for a guy named Burgundy. Suddenly, Pan pops up with a sword chillin' on his shoulder, rocking bright red hair and a seriously jacked build that has Layla staring in shock at this crazy fantasy world. She wakes up in a world full of dragons and insanely hot guys, and her face is totally bright red. The dragon tells her to get it together and orders Burgundy to show the new girl around. He asks if the only people awake are in the kitchen, and Burgundy the dragon says that's totally fine with him. Wendy turns and asks for her name. She blurts out Lilac, and then he tells her his name too. He tells her to follow him and just takes off without even waiting for her to say a word. Layla rushes after him but looks back at the dragon, totally weirded out that he's barking orders like a boss. Is he just a pet or what? This was something way crazier. A dragon king, the Dragon King's castle. Man, she really ended up in the craziest spot possible. But Layla shakes it off because she knows being negative isn't going to help her survive this. It's time for a brand new beginning. She's reincarnated from Huron as Lilac, and she figures she'll just be stuck living in some random corner of the Dragon King's castle. Layla stares up at the massive castle, her jaw dropping because of how ginormous it is. Burgundy acts totally chill and says, "Yeah, this is the king's castle," as she glances over. She asks if the Dragon King is really the one in charge, and he looks at her like she's totally lost because she seriously had no idea. Layla gives a shy little smile and says no, because he definitely doesn't need to know she literally just fell out of the sky. This is the Dragon Kingdom, a massive land ruled by the Dragon King that takes up half the entire continent. Layla goes totally quiet as she realizes she's definitely not on Earth anymore, and even though this place looks like Europe, something is seriously wrong. She's honestly at her limit with all this magic stuff, but then Burgundy swings open a back door and says they've finally made it to the kitchen. They walk straight into total madness, with chefs screaming and servants sprinting through a kitchen that's absolutely slammed. Layla blinks, catching them totally locked into cooking the meal with Burgundy. Wendy agrees, but even though it's way too early for dinner, she's already got a weird feeling about this. At least time works the same here, which is a huge relief. But she's totally shocked when he says dinner is at 6 because that's a crazy amount of prep time. He tells her that's just how it works. You have to cook everything immediately or it'll rot, and she was supposed to be the one to do it. The poses look legit, but are these ingredients really that fragile? Can she even handle a place like this? Burgundy yells at the head chef to wait up. He introduces the new girl as the one watching the place. The chef just mumbles, "Got it." And then Burgundy steps up to make her big announcement. He says he's heading out and Layla thanks him, but the second he's gone, she totally faints. She freezes up. Is he seriously just gonna ditch her in the middle of a total war zone? It feels totally wrong to just stand there while everyone else is going full speed, so she steps up to help out. She tries to help her carry the load, but the girl just snaps at her to get lost and picks it up herself. He grabs a plate and asks the staff what to do, but the guy just snaps that they're way too busy, and she can figure it out herself. She's getting totally heated, wondering if this is a kitchen or a literal sweatshop, but she forces herself to keep going. You gotta keep your cool, because if she gets fired, she's gonna end up on the streets. She's totally locked in as she storms over to the sink, ready to finally... He's told to at least finish the dishes while they get the whole plan ready. It looks just like the bottle in her messy apartment, so she asks if it's detergent, and Topre tells her it is. She starts scrubbing, but the gunk is basically glued to the plates, and she realizes they definitely should have soaked these first. This whole place is totally different, and it's making everything a huge struggle. Even the soap feels super gross and slimy, and just like that, the plate slips right out of her hand and smashes into a million pieces. Every head in the room snapped toward her, and she knew right then she'd totally blown it. Taupe calls her a total newbie, and snaps that those plates are strictly for the Dragon King, making Layla squeak and ask if they're super expensive. Taupe just gives a stone-cold look and says, if it's broken, then it's broken. They're already totally overwhelmed, so she's trying her best not to dump any more work on them. When it really mattered, she turned out to be totally useless. Taupe was super mad and banned her from touching anything breakable, so now she's stuck doing the dirty work like hauling trash and heavy ingredients. A nasty potato slips out of her basket and rolls across the floor, and then another one follows right behind it. Another maid shoots her a nasty look, so Layla freaks out and chases the potato until it rolls right up to a guy's foot. A gloved hand reaches down and grabs it. It's Layla. He looks up and stops dead in his tracks because there's another one right there. Check out this total stunner, she's a complete 10 out of 10. He had a totally different vibe compared to Burgundy's wild and crazy energy. For real though, how is everyone in this place so insanely good looking? Then he speaks up with a super cold voice, asking if she really thinks she's gonna survive here. Layla is totally stunned as they come face to face for the very first time. That's seriously his opening line for the meeting, and then he just plops a potato down. He pulls Tato back into his hand and walks away without even looking back, leaving her standing there. Assuming her was a typo for his in the source, but I should. She watches him go, totally hooked on finding out who he is, because she's definitely seen those deep, dark eyes somewhere before. Layla rushes back into the kitchen and yells that there was a total hottie standing right outside. Right then, one of the maids hits her with a totally dead, stone-cold stare. Nobody even looks her way, so Layla takes a good look around and sees everyone is totally drained and stressed, but they're still grinding away like mindless robots. Layla sneaks up to one of the maids and whispers, asking if they ever actually get a break. The maid just mumbles the word break, like it's some alien language they don't use there, and a totally shocked Layla asks if these people seriously never get tired. Jade just shuts them down, saying they literally can't afford to mess this up. Layla backs away, totally creeped out, wondering what's wrong with this place because everyone is acting way too intense. Let's be real. Working non-stop is just going to make everyone screw up way more than usual. Suddenly, a scent hits her, and she shuts her eyes because it smells just like the good old days. Her mood flips in a heartbeat as her eyes light up and she asks if there's any lunch, but the maid looks totally annoyed because there's definitely no food coming. These guys don't even stop for a real lunch. They just snack on whatever's cooking while they're on the move, and that's exactly why they're always whipping up way more food than they actually need, Laylist. He stares at her, wondering how anyone can survive while she's literally starving, so she finally gets the guts to walk up to Taupe. But he's already death-staring her before she can even say a word. What's up now? Layla's asking if she can snag some of those leftover veggies over there. Taupe just brushes her off since they were already planning to chuck those things in the trash anyway. Layla gives her a quick thanks and bolts straight for the battle. Inside the box are just potatoes, carrots, and onions. Not the best haul, but hey, veggies are still veggies. She spots this weird, crusty black thing and asks a maid walking by what it's even supposed to be. The maid just answers back that it's dried seaweed. Layla asks if they're really going to use that, but no way. They can't serve something that tough to the Dragon King. Usually they just toss the fresh, soft ones right into a salad. Layla pauses for a second, then realizes the dried up ones might actually still work. She didn't want to waste any food, so she checked to see if it was actually wakame. She checks it out, takes a bite, and boom, the flavor hits her instantly. That broth tastes like a total blast from the past, and now she's dying to find something else just like it. She starts raiding the shelves and asks the maid if she can snag a bit of that dressing. The maid watches her like a hawk while Layla takes a taste and nods, explaining that she's just dissolving something first. First up, she grabs some oils and flavor from that barrel, swearing she's only borrowing a tiny bit. She gets right to work, soaking the kombu in water and warming it up. Then she yanks it out before it boils to make the stock, tosses in the veggies, and adds that seasoning. Turns out that seasoning is actually fake miso, and next thing she knows, she's whipping up a bowl of Japanese miso soup. She lets out a shaky breath, feeling so thankful she actually forced her lazy self to go to cooking class, because now she's in a whole new world and still gets to eat like this. Taupe creeps up looking way more nervous than usual, asking what that awesome smell is while Layla starts to explain. He tells her it's miso soup, but Taupe is totally clueless because she's never even heard of it before. She pauses for a second, gives it a quick sniff, and then finally takes a sip. She takes a sip, her face totally relaxes, and she finally admits it's actually fire. But how did Layla even think of this? She just says it's a normal meal from back home, and then Taupe. Hope's totally weirded out because she's never heard of this dish, wondering what kind of cheap meal it is and what's even in the soup. Layla explains exactly how she did it, leaving Taupe totally shocked that that gross, shriveled seaweed actually had a use after all. The head chef gets right in her face and asks if she even knows how to cook, and Layla's like, she says sure, and then without even thinking, she offers to start cooking for the whole squad from now on. The whole kitchen goes dead silent as every single person there just stops and stares at her. Taupe is completely shook and asks her what this whole Makanai thing is even about. Layla realizes she's got to take it all the way back to the basics. Since they've only been eating scraps, they don't know anything yet. She explains that Makani is... Taupe's never heard of anything like that, but Layla just flashes a peace sign and says she's got it handled since her cooking skills are actually legit. It's definitely that size, but hey, at least Layla hasn't trashed the food yet, and nobody else can pull off that flavor she just made. So it's a huge chance for them to learn something new. And Layla shouts that since she's the least busy person there, she's basically perfect for the job. Taupe stops and actually smiles, admitting that's a fair point. So he agrees to go for it while Layla finally lets out a huge breath. She's low-key celebrating because she finally scored a job and won't be totally useless after all. Later, they're all hanging out at the table, and one staffer mumbles about how good it feels to finally sit down and eat. She used to think this break room was a total waste of space, but after standing and working all day, her legs are literally about to give out. The soup and sides are actually fire, and now Layla is telling you exactly what to do. He tells her it's called an onigiri, which is actually from her hometown and made of rice, or some kind of grain, she thinks, as the staff member steps in. She stares at the dish in total shock, admitting she never knew sativa could look this good cooked since she's only ever boiled it. And then Layla thinks the food hits way harder when they actually get a second to chill, and the lady totally agrees, saying she's stopped making so many dumb mistakes since taking a break. Layla nervously asks if a few tiny mess-ups are really that big of a deal. The answer is a hard yes. If the Dragon King catches them slipping even once, they're fired on the spot. And even when Layla asks if that counts for a first mistake, the answer is... Layla gulps, realizing the Dragon King is way more intense than she thought. And if she messes up even once, she's getting kicked to the curb. Even when she tries to, something about this girl totally reminds her of Yui. But the woman just scowls and snaps that her real name is Magenta. And then, she points right at Layla, calling her Lilac, and telling her she better not screw anything else up. Layla stops dead in her tracks, and even though she's totally clueless about what happened to her old world, she's just gonna keep pushing forward one day at a time. Fast forward a few days, and Layla is having a total blast cooking up a storm. Today they've even got meat, and today she's cooking up some tanjuru that's already bubbling away. She catches a delicious smell drifting through the kitchen, takes a deep breath, and tells Taupe it smells amazing, asking what it is as Taupe starts to explain that today, Layla is serving up some ice-cold veggie soup for the Dragon King. She looks at it and thinks it looks just like her tanju, but Taupe quickly warns her to stop mixing up the staff meals with her own. Magenta cuts Layla off, shouting that the plating crew is on break first, so she better finish that Makanai fast, and Layla quickly responds. She snaps back an answer and turns around, only to realize they're totally running low on bowls. She's scanning the counter, hunting for that one last dish before Suddenly she spots it, a bowl that's the perfect size. This bowl is way fancier than her usual ones, but she's only using it for a second, so it'll be totally fine. Magenta barks at her to hurry up, so Layla turns back around to face her. She reaches for the bowl, but it's totally gone. She freezes and grabs her face in shock, wondering what just happened since she literally just filled it with soup a second ago. She suddenly blurts out that the bowls are totally gone. Magenta points out the clean ones by the sink, and Layla just nods, but her mind is totally stuck on what just happened. Wait, that's super sketchy. She knows for a fact she put soup in that bowl, but now it's totally gone. Finish is busy serving everyone when another maid thanks her and says she'll get her break with the next group. Layla looks back at the pot and her face drops because it's almost empty, making her wonder if she gave away way too much. The first group was totally bummed when they only got 2 ladles each. She's totally sure about it, and right then, the kitchen doors burst wide open. This guy bursts through the door and starts yelling for whoever made that weird soup to show their face. Layla's stomach totally drops as she wonders who this guy is, especially since he looks super mean and way too angry. Taupe gets right in the guy's face and demands to know what he meant by strange soup, causing the man to totally crumble and take it all back while stuttering that he says sorry real quick and points out that this soup isn't what Taupe normally makes. Taupe is super confused and tells him the soup is just cold veggie pottage, but the guy swears on his life it was something else. It was just a basic bowl of veggie soup, so why would she ever serve something that cheap to the literal Dragon King? Layla freezes on the spot, slowly lifting her hand, and then the man finally stands up. He's staring her down while she bows low to apologize, explaining that she couldn't find a bowl anywhere and just grabbed a clean white one from the prep counter because she only meant to. Tanjiro mumbles under his breath about the staff food. Better stick to the vibe of the blunder. Actually, looking at the sentence structure with Taupe here, it sounds like a name. Revised. He's muttering. Layla keeps insisting that Taupe is innocent, but he just snaps and tells her to shut up anyway. She's going to apologize to the Dragon King face to face right in front of all the mages. Maid warns her that the Dragon King is a total nightmare, and if he loses his cool, he'll toss her out of the castle, or maybe do something way worse. Imagine getting dropped into a total mystery world with 0 clues. How is she even supposed to survive this? She snaps out of her panic the second he says they've finally arrived. She takes She looks up and sees this giant, shiny door that's so huge she has to tilt her head all the way back just to see the top. His throat goes dry as Fawn steps up to knock, and his usually sharp voice sounds way more polite as he tells them he's finally brought the girl. A super deep voice rumbles from inside, telling them to come in. Layla flinches as the doors swing open, and the second she steps inside, she spots a massive table stretching all the way across the room. She stands up but can't quite see the throne at the back, so she bows low and keeps her eyes on the floor as the king watches her. The king tells her to lift her head up, nice and slow. She starts to do it, taking it real slow. He stops dead in his tracks because it's finally him, the guy he's been looking for. Wait, that's the same guy who picked up her potato earlier, but there's no way he's actually the Dragon King. She catches herself staring, and when he tilts his head to ask what's wrong, she totally snaps. He snaps out of it instantly and blurts out that it's nothing. He says sorry, and then asks her totally chill if she's the one who made the soup. She says yes and bows again, apologizing if the food didn't taste right to him. She's gonna swap it out right now, so he just has to wait a sec. But her eyes go totally wide when she realizes he absolutely hated the taste. He says it's actually the opposite. It was a super rare flavor and totally delicious. So Layla's eyes snap open when she realizes he's not mad and just wants to. She gives a careful answer, saying it's from her hometown but not the real deal. So when he asks what's wrong with it, she explains that the ingredients here are just different from what she's used to. She had to wing it back home, and he just repeats the word hometown to himself, nodding like he totally gets it now. She stands up with a total chill, wondering if the Dragon King already heard she fell from the sky, and it looks like the guy with glasses is in on the secret too. So that's exactly why he told her she'd never be able to make it back here again. She says sorry again, explaining they feel super bad for being so rude and giving him something that was only meant for Makana. He tilts his head totally confused and asks what that even is, but as soon as she explains it's just food for the kitchen staff, he finally gets it. So making the food was seriously that much of a mess today, and she just blinks in total shock. He's honestly surprised because this guy doesn't look nearly as scary as the rumors said, but then out of nowhere, he asks how that food even got into his room. She and Fawn jump up in shock as she screams that it's all her fault, even admitting she used the wrong bowl. She's honestly a total klutz, like the time she accidentally dumped all the veggies down the drain, or when she literally mopped the floor with milk because she thought it was wax. Just the other day during break, Fawn totally snaps and asks her what she's even talking about. She freezes up, bows again, and cuts it short, all because she's being totally careless and sloppy. The king clenches his fist and mumbles that he finally gets it, telling her to stop talking because he's literally starting to feel sick. She goes totally pale thinking he's got food poisoning, but he just stays chill and says her story was way too funny, making her blurt out, "Wait, were you laughing?" As he gets his serious face back on and tells her he actually liked the soup, so if she's making it every day, she should definitely bring him some too. One guy looks totally stunned and shouts that the king is actually going to eat a random girl's cooking, but the king just shrugs and says he is. The kitchen crew eats this stuff every single day, don't they? This guy starts complaining that a king shouldn't be eating food made by someone who isn't even an official servant. The king thinks it over for a second and then makes it official. She's hired. They're gonna hire her as a maid, so Fawn won't have anything to complain about, right, Fawn? For the first time ever, the king is finally losing his cool. King finally chills out, looks her way with a grin, and tells her she's bringing him that soup every single day from now on, so she sticks around. His eyes go wide as he stares at him, thinking, wait, did he just smile? So Magenta figures she's officially going to be working as a maid right here in the Dragon Castle. Penta stares at her in total shock, unable to believe that Layla is actually going to be the Dragon King's personal meal server. Layla is still totally shook and says the guy with glasses looked like he didn't want to be there, so Magenta asks if she's talking about Fawn the butler. Layla explains he's only acting like that because he's stressed about the Dragon King's mood, but she's realized the king isn't scary at all, leaving Magenta totally shocked and questioning if that's really true. Layla gives a shy grin and admits she spilled the beans about all her biggest mess-ups, leaving Magenta looking totally shocked, like she can't believe it's not a joke, Magenta. She bows deep, thanking her for the room and saying she's hyped to be in Magenta's care, while Magenta is just glad they have an extra bed ready. He tosses a uniform her way, telling Layla she's gonna need it and should see if that size fits. Just as Layla's putting on her uniform, a tiny object slips right out of her pocket. She picks it up, wondering what it could be, and finds a tiny glass tube hidden right inside her skirt pocket. She doesn't even know why, but she feels like she absolutely can't lose this Magenta item. He calls out again to check if the uniform fits, so a panicked Layla shoves the tube into a drawer before answering him. The next morning, Layla walks into the kitchen rocking her new uniform, and everyone there is totally blown away. They walk up and tell her she looks awesome in the uniform, and Layla finally feels like she belongs, but then she notices one of them is... The maids are complaining because they were suddenly forced to watch this random kid, and since rumors say she fell straight from the sky, they're being super careful while she gives this super awkward smile, totally blanking on what to say because she's still trying to figure out if she was reborn here or just teleported, and honestly, she has no clue what's even going on yet. She can't tell a soul about this because no one would believe her anyway. But before she can think about it anymore, Taupe claps her hands and tells everyone to get to their spots because they have a ton of work to finish. She turns to Layla, hands over the ingredients, and tells her she's officially in charge of the soup from now on. Layla's eyes go wide at the sight of all that fresh meat and produce, and she has to double-check if she's seriously allowed to keep the whole haul. Hope nods and explains that the best cuts are for the Dragon King while the staff eats the leftovers, and Layla just beams and says she's on it. Layla finally knocks out most of her chores and gets a second to breathe, but she's still swamped and starts thinking. He suggests getting the food ready early, but Taupe shuts him down because everything will just rot if they prep it too soon. Layla mentions a fridge, but Taupe just repeats the word looking totally lost, since this world doesn't even have electricity for stoves or lamps. So she sighs and realizes she's just wasting her. She misses her modern Japanese gadgets so much she literally starts screaming for her fridge. Right then, Burgundy walks in and catches her talking, giving her a confused look and asking what she's even talking about. Vaughn gives him a death stare while slurping his soup, muttering that he shouldn't listen to a little girl. But Layla pouts and reminds him he's eating her leftovers, so he panics and yells that it's just a taste test. He's got no choice since it's for the Dragon King, but Burgundy actually thinks the soup tastes simple and awesome. You Can Eat turns back and asks her what she's even talking about. He says if they need something handy, Spruce can probably just make it, since he's the kingdom's lead strategist and basically the most powerful magician in the entire land. Layla's eyes go wide as she realizes he's a real magician, and honestly, this feels just like she's living inside a video game. Fawn loses it on Burgundy, asking if he's seriously going to drag Lord Spruce into this girl's drama, while Burgundy just shrugs and asks if it's even that big of a deal. He says they should just go ahead and ask, telling Layla she's coming along to explain everything to Spruce, and she stands up straight with a look that says she's totally ready for this. She totally can, and a second later, she's standing right outside the Dragon King's dining hall with Burgundy, and with her confidence totally vanishes as she whispers that they're in the Dragon King's dining room, but Burgundy just nods and heads inside while Layla follows behind. She totally freezes up, panicking that the king is probably busy eating, but Burgundy just brushes her off and marches right inside to find him. The king looks up and asks what's going on, so Burgundy just smirks and says Layla had a cool idea he wants to try making. King shoots Layla a look, demanding she explain herself, but before she can say a word, some guy next to him smirks and asks if she's the girl rumored to be the Mesa. He looks at the soup girl and points out that she's actually a total beauty. Layla's face turns totally red as even more hands reach out to grab her. The king is surrounded by total hotties on both sides, and honestly, this room is so packed with good-looking guys that their faces alone look like they're worth millions. Burgundy looks her way and realizes she's never actually met these guys before. That long-haired dude over there is Indigo, the vice general, and he's basically the lucky charm of the entire nation. That guy with the curly hair is Spruce, the magician he mentioned before, and Layla just spotted him. She quietly asks why they're even bringing up the miso soup, and Indigo just teases her, saying they're digging in too. Layla realizes that Raphael actually likes the food, which is wild since he usually couldn't care less about eating. He realizes Raphael is actually the Dragon King's name, and even though Raphael shouts a warning, Indigo just waves him off and tells him to stop being so shy. The king looks pretty annoyed, narrowing his eye as he asks what she's yapping about, so Layla stands up straight and starts explaining, totally vibrating with excitement. She's super hyped about this thing called a refrigerator, a total game-changer box that keeps food fresh forever, and she knows it'll make her cooking even better. Plus, she heard Spruce might actually be able to build one. Spruce kicks back and tells Layla that if she can explain exactly how it works, he might just be able to build it. Layla's eyes totally light up because she can't believe this is actually about to happen with Burgundy stands right next to her with a massive grin, and they both smash a high five, totally hyped up, while Indigo just chills nearby. He tilts his head with a smirk, totally teasing the king and telling him he's free to join the fight. And the king doesn't even look at the guy, keeping his eyes locked on how hyped Layla is as he decides to. He shuts the offer down without a word, and Indigo just puts a hand on his face with a cocky smirk. Fast forward a few days, and Layla and Burgundy are staring at a huge box floating right over a glowing magic circle. Layla whispers that things are about to get wild, wondering if Spruce can really build a whole fridge out of thin air. Spruce figures he just needs to keep the box cold, so he decides his ice magic is the way to go. She gets super hyped and tells him he's right, but warns. He reaches out and tells her she needs a perfect mental picture for the final step, and Layla places her hand in his. She grabs his hand, and he gently leads her, telling her to get a super clear picture of that fridge in her head. She closes her eyes tight, picturing the exact same machine from her house, and suddenly the box starts hovering and glowing with a super bright light. Magic sparks fly everywhere, and when Layla opens her eyes, the box is floating right in front of her, totally transformed into a massive, shiny commercial fridge. It's totally perfect, and Burgundy leans in looking super impressed, while Layla swings the door open and screams with joy because the fridge is exactly what she wanted, Spruce. Since this power is pulled straight from the magic in the air, it's already 100% ready to go. Layla spins around with a massive grin, feeling so thankful because she knows Spruce is legit the best magician in the whole country. She whips around to the king with a massive, creepy smile stretching across her whole face, thanking him for the green light and promising to cook the most delicious meal he's ever tasted. King watches her frozen solid, but then out of nowhere, he walks right past her and ruffles her hair, making Layla totally freeze up on the spot. Smoke drifts across her face as he vanishes into thin air, and the next thing you know, the next morning rolls around and Layla finally decides to crack open the fridge. Everyone in the kitchen is crowding around with their eyes wide, just waiting to see if the food is totally spoiled, and then she swings. He flings the door open and sees everything is totally normal, finally letting him breathe again. The whole squad is beaming as pure happiness spreads across their faces. Spruce suddenly pops up with his classic poker face like he's just chilling, totally scaring Layla as she whips around to see him while Burgundy trails right behind, grumbling that Spruce was probably just testing his magic box and totally wanted a bite of her food too. Layla's eyes totally light up, and she decides to flex a bit by whipping out some cookies for both of them. The two guys watch her closely while she explains these are called icebox cookies, which became super popular. She totally pulled it off because she let the dough chill in the fridge, and then she used that burgundy tape. He takes a bite and totally freezes because it tastes so good. And even though Spruce stays quiet, his face shows he's just as shocked. Layla's just complaining about how much easier baking would be if they had microwaves, but she totally freezes when Spruce leans in and asks where she's actually from, and Layla's brain totally shorts out and she starts stuttering, but he doesn't let up, grilling her on how she knows about modern stuff like fridges and stoves and she's just blinking in total shock, having no clue where to even begin as she lets out a nervous gulp. She starts freaking out and blurts out that she's got a question first, asking if he's a magic expert since she wants to. Spruce is trying to find out if there's any magic that can actually pull someone from a whole different world. Bruce asks what she means by another world, and she frantically explains it's a place that isn't even here, somewhere you could never reach no matter how far you walked or sailed. He listens for a second before telling her he's got nothing, and her face totally drops when he says there are 0 records of anyone ever being summoned from another world. Teleporting people and gear across the world is totally possible, but it's such high-level magic that only a tiny group of elites like Layla can actually pull it off. He feels like a total idiot, wondering if something happened to her that's just way beyond his level. Burgundy stands up, looking totally lost, and asks what any of this has to do with her hometown. She jumps up and tells them she's going to share the cookies with everyone else, and starts handing them out. She tells Spruce and Burgundy to get everyone to the Dragon King and Lord Indigo, then she just takes off and sprints out of the kitchen. While she's on the move, she realizes her hometown is way too weird to explain anyway, so she stops overthinking and decides it's time to lock in and get to work. Out of nowhere, she slams right into someone. She starts apologizing like crazy, but the lady just gives her a warm smile and says it's totally fine. He shows up asking what's the deal, looks at the woman again, and realizes it's actually Wisteria. She mentions it's super rare for Wisteria to even show up in the kitchen, but Wisteria just chilly introduces herself as the Dragon King's head maid, saying she heard rumors that things were changing and wanted to see the situation for herself. And now that she's finally there, she's feeling totally chill and relaxed. Layla holds out the tray to offer Wisteria a cookie, and she grabs one with a huge smile, saying they look totally adorable. She teases Layla about being the secret cook from the rumors, and Layla just nods and says, "Yep, that's me." Toke jumps in to remind Wisteria that Layla is the reason the kitchen staff actually gets breaks and food, but then he smirks and teases her, saying she's basically useless at everything except for her cooking. The head maid taps her chin while thinking, then asks if the other maids can eat in the kitchen too, making Layla tilt her head in surprise. She tilts her head, wondering where the other maids eat, and Wisteria says they just stand in the break room snacking on whatever big meals the kitchen whips up. Layla yells that this is the same thing they saw in the kitchen and warns them they'll get tired way too fast if they keep it up. Wisteria nods and says she'd love it if the maids could just eat right here with them. Layla looks over at Taupe to see if he's cool with it, and he just flashes a grin and tells her it's totally fine. Layla flashes a huge smile and thanks them, saying she's gonna go tell everyone the news right now and thanking them one more time for the cookies. Kayla's hyped that the vibes are finally looking up, but Taupe warns that things are about to get crazy busy, so she just hopes everyone can get some rest while they still can. Back in her room, Layla stops dead while brushing her hair and repeats the word party, as Magenta chillin' on the bed tells her the big news. There's a huge event at the castle soon, and it's gonna be way more chaotic than usual, especially since Fawn is always such a nervous wreck. Layla's totally confused why a party needs this much work, but Magenta sighs and tells her it's actually for the Dragon King's queen selection. The Dragon King rules a whole nation, but he still doesn't have a fiancé, and his old advisors are totally starting to freak out. The big shots have tried setting the Dragon King up with girls from all over the kingdom, but he's totally rejected every single one of them, Magenta. Magenta keeps going, saying they've even thought about marrying him off to someone from another country because of their neighbors. The kingdom of Vavl is right next door and they're always starting some kind of drama. This massive nation splits the whole continent with the Dragon Kingdom, and they're always trying to muscle in on the Dragon King's turf. But that's not even the craziest part. And get this, the Queen of Vavl is totally obsessed with the Dragon King. Layla tilts her head and casually suggests they get married for politics, making Magenta freeze in total shock as she shouts that nobody would ever want her to be queen. She explains that the Vavall princess is a total party crasher who's always showing up uninvited. She keeps spamming the king with gifts and loses her mind whenever he says no, so Magenta warns she might actually invade with her whole army. She's a total menace. She's a total wild card, and you just know she's gonna crash this party too. Back in the king's study, an official clears his throat and tries to get the king to finally give the okay for the big banquet. The Dragon King can barely be bothered to even look. He's staring so hard at the cookies Burgundy and Spruce brought in that he's basically in a trance. He pictures Layla's smiling face again, and a tiny grin creeps onto his face without him even noticing. The king jumps when the official calls him out again, getting a total earful for not paying attention and being told he seriously needs to start acting like a real leader. He makes it clear that he's got to end this for real right now, or they're going to be stressed out forever. Another official steps up and tells the king he's got to take the queen's election seriously this time around. He frowns and finally looks up from the cookies, realizing just how serious things have gotten. The Dragon King's big bride hunting party is finally almost here, and the whole castle is going totally nuts getting all the food and the venue ready. While all that's going down, she's actually helping them decide what's on the menu for the big day. Forget the fancy sit-down dinner. It's a massive buffet where everyone grabs their favorite food and then she's gonna stock the fridge with tons of cold food, and Topa totally agrees, saying she'll handle all the hot dishes herself. Magenta suggests sticking to baked treats they can prep a day early, and Tope thinks the fridge is a total lifesaver. Just a day earlier, the Taupe crew finished the side dishes and immediately stashed 50 servings in the fridge. It's the day before the big party, and Fawn marches into the kitchen with a total death stare. He gives her a look and mutters that the other maids should be helping out too, so she nervously reaches for the dishes, but he snaps and shuts her down, telling her to keep her hands off the dishes. He grumbles that she's nothing but trouble and he's way too busy for this, so she just mumbles about getting a snack and bails. She drags a stool over and climbs up to reach the fridge, but then her mom. She swings the door open and freezes because the place is totally packed, and right there are it's way too crowded in there, and she knows that's a total disaster for the cooling. She leans forward and reaches deep into the back, feeling around behind the containers for one line out. Rule 2. Isolation. Each line must be a complete thought. Never spill the meaning of one line into the next. She stares at her, totally stunned, and asks if she's even okay. She stares right at him, her face turning bright red, and then she pulls away from him fast, almost tripping again while she stammers out an apology, but he just shakes his head and says he was just passing by when he saw her falling off the platform. She nods fast, totally embarrassed, and tilts her head to ask why he's even in the kitchen. He looks away with his ears turning bright red, acting like he was just out for a casual walk. She stares at him for a second, thinking he's totally the type to just ditch his work. But then her face totally lights up as she says she's super hyped for tomorrow's party, but he just looks away with a frown. Her smile totally drops as she realizes she might have missed something big, so she clears her throat to play it cool. He grabs her by the throat and tells her to get back to work on those cookies, repeating the word snack like it's some kind of threat. She says she's serving it with tea when everyone takes a break, and he just gives her a big smile. He softly tells her he got the treats she sent from Spruce and they were seriously delicious. Her face totally lights up as she asks if you want seconds, promising to bring them to the dining room the moment they're ready. She flinches before he can even say a word, and suddenly Indigo shows up at the door with a huge smirk, asking Raphael what he's even doing in a place like this. Raphael stands up and says he's heading out, but Indigo lazily tells him to stay on the clock, making Raphael grumble that he just needed a breather and is heading back now. Indigo just laughs and mentions that Burgundy's been running all over the place looking for him, but honestly, that guy spends half his time running around for fun anyway. Later, Magenta is wheeling the tea cart with Layla and tells her the whole kitchen was totally shocked by her, while Layla laughs about the hilarious face Toke made when he heard the Dragon King wanted sweets. Magenta snorts as the girl gives a shy smile and says sorry for making her help, but Magenta just scoffs and tells her she'd probably smash every single dish if she tried to carry them alone. Magenta stops dead in her tracks, stares her down, and asks if she's seriously not scared of the Dragon King. She blinks and asks why everyone is so freaked out by him. So Magenta whispers that for low-level servants like them, he's basically a god, and tells her to just think of... She tries to answer, but her mind goes totally blank, and she starts freaking out, asking what they should do because she's actually getting really scared now. Magenta shoves the cart forward and tells her they've just got to keep moving, but right then, Fawn steps out from the door ahead. He's looking totally annoyed and tells them to stop making a scene in the hallway. They freeze up as they walk into the office, and she stops dead the second she enters. She steps inside, her eyes darting everywhere since it's her first time in the Dragon King's office. But she snaps out of it and tells herself to get a grip, blurting out that she finally brought the sweets he asked for. He sets the tray down and neatly lines up the cookies, explaining that the white ones are plain and the others have dried fruit as she gives him a bow. She bows her head and says she's heading out, but he stops her and tells her to stay right there. Her head whips up, Fawn's jaw drops in total shock, and the king turns to look right at him. She brushes him off and says she just wants to hear more about the sweets, then tells him to go grab her a chair. He brings it in totally silent, a magenta flash hits, and he just walks out of the room. And just like that, she's stuck all alone with him. She sits there with Magenta's words about people in the clouds looping in her head, her fingers twisting with nerves. They were finally together, but she was still stuck in her modern-day mindset, and maybe she just didn't get it yet, because this guy was made for someone just like her. She almost jumps out of her skin when he suddenly asks if she made these while picking one up. He grabs a cookie, takes a bite, and his whole face just softens up. He says it tastes fire, exactly like he knew it would, and that he's totally impressed. For a second, he totally forgets how exhausted he is. She gives him a soft thank you. Seeing him enjoy the food this much honestly puts a huge smile on her face. He asks her. She has no idea, but he says she's actually a total disaster at everything else, failing at even basic stuff like cleaning or laundry. She explains that's why she brought backup today, admitting the head chef was totally sure she'd mess everything up, and he just gives her a smile. His voice is barely a whisper as he softly calls out her name. She freezes up, but then she flashes a huge grin and asks if his name is Raphael. He stops for a second and tells them that only his inner circle is allowed to call him that. Her eyes totally light up as she tells him his name is awesome, and the two of them just start chatting away. They were just talking, but things escalated so fast that before they knew it, everything had changed. By the time he finishes his tea and snacks, he suddenly realizes she's been standing there the whole time and admits he totally kept her waiting. She starts to leave but stops and turns back, telling him that if he's going to pretend he's just out for a walk, he better bring his pet next time, leaving him repeating the word pet in total confusion. She explains she's talking about that black dragon she saw for a split second the day she first fell down there. He just stares at her for a second before totally losing it, laughing that she actually thinks that dragon is a pet, while she just blinks in confusion. She blinks in total shock and asks if she messed up, but he just smiles and tells her she's actually super interesting. His voice gets all soft as he admits he hasn't laughed like this in forever, feeling totally happy just being near her while she gives him a little pout. She asks if he's just messing with her, so he chokes back his laughter and tells her he's being totally serious. He gives her a warm smile and tells her he's just really happy she showed up. Her face turns bright red. She spins around and bolts out of the room, and the second she ducks into the hallway and smacks her cheeks to snap out of it, thinking there's no way this is actually happening. There's no time for that because the big party is finally tomorrow, and while even the junior maids are working their hearts out, Wisteria is... Layla has to look sharp for the guests, but she can't be too extra or flashy. Dylan nods and tells her to just act like a receptionist, leaving Wisteria blinking and repeating the word in total confusion. Layla quickly slaps on some white makeup and then turns her attention back to Wisteria. Stereo flashes a smile and tells her the makeup looks totally awesome, saying she's way cuter than usual, and then Wisteria finishes the look by braiding her hair. He's being super careful with her chestnut hair, telling her how soft it is, while Layla notices everyone else has dark hair, and Wisteria agrees she totally stands out in this country. Layla realizes she never even thought about it before, but now she's wondering if she's actually an Isekai person. She finishes her hair, looks in the mirror, and flashes a smile because she looks totally awesome. Wisteria cheers her on, telling her to give it everything she's got. Layla walks into the massive banquet hall, and her jaw hits the floor as she stares at all the fancy nobles. Girls are everywhere in these glowing dresses, and it's basically like a straight-up fairy tale movie where every single one of them looks absolutely stunning and fancy. If they're all like this, it's basically just a massive battle to see who wins the hottest guy, right? Suddenly, an announcement blasts through the hall. The Dragon King is finally here. The second he steps inside, he totally freezes up, just like you'd expect. Now that he's been picked, the musician looks totally cool, rocking that all-black fit. Cue the violins! Layla jumps straight into her work just as a lady nearby calls out to her. She shouts out, asking her to bring her a drink. Layla totally freezes because the woman is so gorgeous, but she catches Layla staring, flashes a smile, and says it's an honor to meet her while Layla just starts blabber. She blinks in total shock, wondering if they've met before, but she just can't remember as she walks closer. She walks over to the maid and tells her to take that fruit wine straight to the lady in the pink dress. She totally loses it when the maid drops the news that the lady is actually the queen. Layla realizes she's looking at the queen of Vavl, but that super weird greeting has her totally lost. The Dragon King just chills on his throne watching the crowd until Indigo leans over and asks if any of the girls have caught his eye yet. The king mumbles that he was just zoning out, but Indigo snaps that he's not even trying to dance, making it impossible to keep the party hyped while even Burgundy is actually giving it his all. Diego gives him another nudge, telling him that if he's into someone, he should just go talk to them. Raphael warns Indigo to stop acting like it's no big deal. Fawn walks right up to the king and tells him it's finally time to get out there and dance. To keep those snobby nobles happy, he's gotta at least dance with one of the girls they already picked out for him. The Dragon King looks totally fed up and snaps that he's already said this 1,000,000 times, while Wisteria and Layla just hang back and listen to them go at it. Hysteria tells Layla that even though tons of girls were invited, the top picks were already chosen beforehand. And now Fawn is stuck right in the middle of the big bosses and the Dragon King. She looks back at the king as he suddenly stands up, and Wisteria jokes that Fawn's hard work is finally paying off because it looks like Raphael is about to walk right up to the queen. He completely ignores Vavl, walking right past her to stop in front of another girl standing nearby. He doesn't even hesitate as he grabs her hand and pulls her straight onto the dance floor. Layla stands there totally frozen as this weird, heavy feeling suddenly hits her right in the chest. It completely catches her off guard. She has no idea what it is, but it's making her... He walks right up and calls her out for looking so down, leaving Wisteria totally stunned that he actually noticed her. Syria asks why he isn't hanging out with the Dragon King, but Indigo says it's totally fine since the king is busy dancing, even if it looks more like a stiff robot. He said Raphael was staring super hard at the corner of the room for some reason. He explains he only showed up because his girl Sue was there and he was just calling out to her. Wisteria randomly tells the Dragon King he needs to find a girl and says Indigo should do the same. But Indigo points out that since Raphael is already with his childhood friend Layla, he's just... Kayla starts asking what's really going on between Wisteria and Indigo. Stereo just grins and acts like it's no big deal, casually mentioning she thought she already told everyone that Indigo is actually her son. Kayla covers her mouth in total shock now that she finally sees what's going down. Now that it's been pointed out, she can't unsee it. Their energy feels exactly the same and even their hair is a total match. She suddenly realizes she's totally clueless about how people in this castle actually vibe, and since even the head maid Styria is technically just a servant, she starts wondering if she'll ever truly belong. So is Indigo actually a noble or something? It's not like it matters, since the Dragon King doesn't care about status when picking his top guys anyway. She stops dead in her tracks as the truth hits her and she's totally stunned. It hits her right then that she actually knows zero about the Dragon King or his massive castle. Right nearby, the queen is standing there totally frozen, grinding her teeth because she's clearly fuming. Layla finally slumps to the floor, totally relieved that the party is finally over. She's just finishing up the tables when Magenta suddenly sprints over, shouting that she's been looking everywhere for her. Layla asks if she's okay or needs anything, but Magenta doesn't give a straight answer, and instead, she grabs Layla's arm and drags her toward the kitchen, and when Layla asks if something's wrong, Magenta says it's way past a problem. It's pure rage. Layla completely freezes up the second she hears the Dragon King say he wants to turn me into soup. She's just grabbing a late-night snack when she... Layla starts cooking the miso soup the Lord Dragon King asked for, but she's still trying to figure out what ingredients to throw in. The party left her with a mountain of food, but since it's so late, she decides to stick with some light veggies that are easy on the stomach. She glances down at one of the ingredients and suddenly freezes. Wait, isn't this stuff usually for salads? She's curious about the taste, and with how soft and beany it is, it's basically just like tofu. Magenta asks if the miso soup is done, and Layla totally panics, almost blurting out the wrong thing. She quickly says sorry for the mistake and decides to just cook with the veggies and tofu they have on hand. She keeps things simple, and the second she's finished, she announces it's ready, making Magenta instantly bark at her to hurry up and serve it while Layla asks where to take it. And when Magenta tells her to go straight to the Dragon King's private room, Layla's totally shocked and asks if they're even allowed to be in a place like that. Magenta says there's no way that's happening and tells Layla to just leave it with Wisteria at the entrance. Kayla lets out a massive sigh of relief, thinking she's finally off the hook. But right at that moment, everything changes. Right at the entrance, the Dragon King shocks everyone by ordering them all to leave, everyone except for Elle. Layla's just standing there, totally frozen and shaking while everyone else bolts out, and she never even moves. He never imagined she'd end up all alone with the Lord Dragon King in his private room, and even he was totally stunned. Even just chilling in his own room, this guy looks insanely cool, but he immediately apologizes for the weird request while Layla gives him a major pout. He wasn't lying. The party was already totally loaded with food when he spotted. She just smiles and tells her to stop being so mad because it's ruining her cute face, making her blush like crazy. Lee perks up when he notices she looks totally different today, asking if she's wearing makeup, and then he just starts eating like it's no big deal, which makes her face turn even redder. And then he catches every little detail to give her the smoothest compliments that totally catch. He mentions the miso soup is pretty basic, but Layla says she kept it light since it's so late, and he has to admit she's right. He admits it feels super gentle and tells her that her miso soup is straight up fire. She totally panics and blurts out that it's just her home cooking, but he just smiles and says that's exactly why it's so good. For him, dinner is just getting nagged about manners while listening to rich snobs gossip and fake flatter each other, making every meal feel totally flavorless and boring. The locals were always staring and judging him for not being married yet, and today was the same old story until whenever he's with her, all that heavy stuff just totally disappears. He even starts wishing she'd make him soup like this every single day, thinking about how much he wants to protect this simple, happy life. She's just standing there totally frozen and freaking out, thinking, wait, didn't he just casually drops a total bombshell, asking her to make him miso soup every single morning. She's trying so hard to stay calm, telling herself he just likes the soup and there's totally no deeper meaning behind it. He tells her that living on just miso soup every day is totally unhealthy, then starts teasing her back with a question. He asks if it would have been super awkward to just stay there and keep stuffing his face at the party. She takes a second to think and realizes, yeah, he's actually got a point. Sitting on the throne with a blank face and refusing to dance was honestly super rude, but she definitely couldn't say that to his face. She just asks if he really hated the party that much, but honestly, he totally didn't. He totally ignores her question and just tells her she worked super hard today, leaving her totally shocked as she asks if he was actually watching her. He fires back that from way up on his throne, he can see everything crystal clear, and he says she was always super busy, but she was still full of energy and had a huge smile on her face. She just grins and whispers, "Is that right?" before admitting that today was totally wild and she actually had a blast. Fun, he says the word again, looking totally caught off guard. He's totally caught off guard by that massive smile on her face again, and she just nods and says yes. She's never seen a party this fancy in her entire life. He pauses for a second to think, then he stands right up. He says it's a bummer there's no music, but they should still get things moving. I'm gonna try dancing with them anyway, just to see what happens. To finish the party with a bang, he grabs her hand and she completely freaks out. She panics a bit and blurts out that she's never danced before, and her outfit is a total disaster for this. He just gives her a chill smile like it's no big deal, thinking she looks totally cute even without dressing up, and then he tells her to just follow his lead and step out with her right foot first, but right before she can. Before she can even talk back, he's already leading her away and giving her a smooth little spin. Her heart is pounding out of her chest as she whispers that she totally thought the Dragon King hated dancing. He just smirks and says his answer totally depends on who his partner is. That makes her face turn bright red, and she's honestly starting to freak out because she's been a nervous wreck all day long. It feels so crazy, like she starts humming without even realizing it, and he stops dead in his tracks. She freezes up and looks at her in total shock, asking what song that is. She rushes to explain it's just a movie or a song from her hometown, and his face softens with a sad look as he realizes she really did come from a place far, far away. He tells her that even though she's stuck in the castle for now, he's kept everything else exactly the same. But she just shakes her head and says it's totally fine since she's got nowhere else to go anyway, and honestly, just being allowed to stay there has helped her way more than he even realizes. He hesitates for a second, then nervously asks about her hometown, and if she had any family or friends back there, and the whole vibe just goes totally still. She goes totally silent because this is the one thing she's been avoiding. She still has no clue how to get home and feels completely lost, leaving her wondering who she can even turn to for help. Who can she even turn to? She has no clue anymore, but he's definitely starting to notice. He notices her go quiet and asks if he brought up something heavy, but she immediately brushes it off and says she's totally fine. She tells him she's been treated like a total queen and has grown to love the castle and everyone living there. She tells him she's slow but super tough, so he shouldn't worry, and he just gives her a long look. He looks at her in total shock like he never expected that, and suddenly she realizes she's said way too much. She's totally dying of embarrassment and quickly blurts out that she's gotta go. She turns and bolts, and he just watches her go with this really quiet, sad look in his eyes. Back at the palace of Vavl, the queen is absolutely fuming. Like, what was that even supposed to be? Seriously, though, how dare he embarrass the queen of Vavl in front of... He sees her shaking and totally hurt, so he sprints away to grab the first aid kit. She's standing all by herself in her room, staring at his picture with a look that's totally torn between being mad and really missing him. It's written all over her face, so why is he so blind to how much she loves him? This time she's going to make him see it, and The next morning, Taupe sends Layla on a quick mission because they totally ran out of spices at the party, so she has to hit up the market right below the castle. Layla's face totally lights up because she's finally getting out of the castle for the first time since she arrived, and she's wondering She's dying to see what this market is actually like, and she's totally buzzing with hype. Next, she's right in the middle of the crowded capital, surrounded by stalls full of food and supplies. But while she's looking around in total awe, she suddenly realizes she's completely lost. She scans the crowd and spots a guy in a cloak nearby, so she decides to go ask him. She walks right up to him, but then freezes in her tracks as her mind goes totally blank. Wait, that face. Is that the king? No. There's no way a literal king would just be chilling in a place like this. She's totally panicking and tries to tell herself it's just a double, so she spins around to bolt, but someone grabs her wrist before she can even move. Raphael asks if she's straight up ignoring him, making her blurt out that it really is him. He stays super chill, telling her they locked eyes, He tells her he's just doing an inspection, saying that walking around like a normal guy lets him see the town's true side, and he actually sneaks out like this all the time. She instantly asks what happens if his secret identity gets leaked, and he just gives her a quick look. He gives a quick wink and says Burgundy is close by, and if they both wear disguises, they'll blend right into the crowd. Layla only caught it because she knows him way too well. He even admits that she's way more of a head-turner than he is. She's got brown hair and those dark, glassy eyes that are super rare in this country, and then she just blinks. He blinks as it finally clicks. Wisteria definitely said something like that the other day. She totally freaks out and tries to hide her hair with her basket, asking if she should just stay hidden if she's really that obvious. He smirks at her clever moves and tells her it's totally fine even if she can't pull it off. Suddenly, a shopkeeper shouts over to ask if they're a couple and starts bragging about his freshly baked torrechica. The king doesn't even hesitate. He just walks over, buys it, and hands it to her as she takes it. He grabs the food and starts devouring it, totally locked in, explaining it's a classic snack from his country that tastes amazing. But then he adds one more thing. He casually mentions that her cookies are still way better, and she's just like... She practically chokes from embarrassment and tells him he's hyping her up way too much. A bit later, they're strolling through town together while she watches a group of kids zoom right past them. They walk right past them laughing and say everyone looks super happy, and he totally agrees. It feels super chill, or maybe peaceful is the best way to put it. Layla tells him that she's literally never left the castle before today. The town is super clean and busy, and everyone seems so nice to her. She can even walk around by herself without. He finally admits it's actually pretty wild and says that's just how it works. Is going to protect this view no matter what. Then she breaks loose. Actually, looking at the prompt, 1 line in equals 1 line out, the user provided 1 block. I will provide. He freezes for a split second before blurting out how much they actually attack, and when he asks where she heard that, she just nods while he stares her down. He looks pretty shocked and mumbles that she's already heard the news, then he just gives a shrug. She says they're totally gonna attack again since they never learn, so she tilts her head and casually asks why they don't just make peace already. Or better yet, since they won't stop pushing him, he might as well just marry into Vavl already. The whole vibe gets super tense as he stops dead and glares at her, demanding to know what she meant by might as well, while she totally panics and shuts her mouth. Absolutely nothing. But when he asks why she's even at the market, she starts to smile until she suddenly remembers the spices. Oh no, that's exactly what she was sent to get. While out grabbing spices, she starts totally losing it right in the street while he stays completely chill. Somli points out the shop she's looking for, and she gets way too hyped thanking him before asking if he's heading straight back to the castle. He says no thanks and decides to keep wandering, so she just nods, bows, and heads out. She starts to walk away, but he calls her name again to tell her something. Or maybe he's just really hyped to dig into today's soup. She gives him a massive grin and promises she's gonna go all out today. She gives him one last tip. Say hello next time instead of just grabbing people so you don't look like a total creep, leaving him speechless while Burgundy starts dying of laughter in the corner. The next day, Layla is totally spaced out thinking about everything that went down yesterday. Today was seriously such a blast because she got to hit the market, wander the town, eat snacks, and even just vibe with the Dragon King while they talked about random stuff. She snaps back to reality and shakes her head like crazy, telling herself there's no way that was a date. Taupe and Magenta are giving her a major side-eye, wondering what kind of crazy stuff is going on in her head. Hope finally breaks the silence with a super suspicious smirk, telling Layla she should totally go clear her head with a walk in the garden while she rests. Hila pauses for a split second before nodding, deciding she'll take them up on the offer and go chill outside for a bit. She stares at the flowers with her eyes wide open, totally forgetting to blink because they look so unbelievable. She's looking totally stunning as she watches the gardeners do their thing. This is the epic result of all the gardeners' hard work every single day. Everyone from the castle to the town is grinding hard because they've all got lives, homes, and people waiting for them to come back. She gets this totally spaced out look, and just as we're wondering what's up with her, a voice suddenly, then, out of nowhere, he just casually asks if she'd ever be down to do another errand in a place like this again. She whips around in shock, but the Dragon King is just standing there acting like it's totally normal. World. She blinks and mutters that they've been bumping into each other way too much lately, asking if he's just slacking off, and he shuts it down instantly, saying he saw her hanging out in the garden while he was busy working in his room. Togo tells him to stop being a total creep and just go talk to her if he's that curious, and then he adds, he tells her he's just out for a quick breather, and she gives him a playful little smile. She tells him they're finally on break together, quickly making sure he knows she isn't just slacking off, while he promises her that this break is 100% official. He says that's perfect, especially since the whole kitchen crew has been taking it way too easy lately, right? She nods and says Taupe and Magenta are doing great, and even though Fawn is still kind of a nag, everyone's actually being super nice to her while she eats. She even gets to chill in the garden on her break, and with the sun out and flowers everywhere, he whispered that she actually scored a pretty sweet deal. He mumbles something about flowers and slowly scans the area. He looks around for a second, grabs a small bunch of flowers, and holds them out, telling her he wants her to have them. She stares at them and whispers that they're cherry blossoms, and he says they look just like the ones from her hometown. That flowery stuff she always puts in her miso soup has to be a major clue about where she's actually from. After what happened yesterday, he's trying to find something just like it, and she completely freezes up. 2 tears start rolling down her face before she even realizes she's crying. He starts freaking out and asks if she's good, but she's totally zoned out, thinking about her home in Japan and everyone she left behind. Everyone she left behind is totally crushed, And if she really died after collapsing like that, what has she even become now? After getting dropped into a weird world for no reason, she's totally on edge because she has to fake a smile and work hard just to get noticed, even though she's secretly. She looks up at him as he gently brushes the tears right off her cheeks. He mumbles a quick sorry for dumping all his problems on her, and she finally lets go. She totally freezes when he calls her Layla, and it feels super weird but also kind of warm. He whispers that she shouldn't try to handle everything by herself, and that he wants to help her out. He wants her to tell him all about her home, and if she's serious about going back, he'll do whatever it takes to get her there. It's totally doable, and if Layla is out of the picture, he might actually pull it off before he can even finish his sentence. Her eyes suddenly drift way up. A massive swarm of bugs floods the sky like a dark cloud, and he looks totally freaked out. He screams out that it's actually an attack coming straight from Vavl. Layla stares up at the massive army filling the sky and starts to panic, whispering in shock as she asks Raphael what they're even supposed to do. Raphael calls Burgundy over right away, and in a split second, things get intense. In a total flash, he's right next to them as a magic circle starts glowing. A magic circle glows under his feet as he launches into the clouds, leaving Layla completely shook that he can fly until Raphael explains it's just some powered-up gear from Burgundy. Lord Spruce pops up right next to them and explains that their gear is boosted with magic so they can take the fight into the sky. But Vavl's attack is so insanely powerful that Spruce's face goes dark with worry. Raphael leans against a spruce tree to stay steady, while Layla stands there totally paralyzed, her heart pounding as she waits to see what's about to go down. Suddenly, a massive gust of wind slams into her while the air shakes with crazy energy, and her jaw literally drops as Raphael goes full beast mode, turning into a massive scaly dragon as his giant wings burst out. He dives straight into the battle, dodging arrows and smashing enemies while he's still mid-air. Shadows, spears, and magic blasts are literally raining down from the sky. Spruce snaps a glowing shield into place, pulls Layla inside, and yells for her to watch out, but she just freezes up. She pauses for a split second before realizing she has to follow orders and call Indigo for backup. Her heart is pounding like crazy as she sprints right into the palace. Magenta and Taupe yell after her, totally panicked since she was just in the garden, but Layla just shakes her head. He grabs her head and doesn't even look back because he's so focused on finding Indigo, while Taupe orders a servant to deliver the message right away. They'll use everyone to be safe and punchy. Revised. A massive roar rips through the palace, stopping everyone dead in their tracks. Wait. Layla stands totally still, her eyes glued to the sky. Magenta sprints over to her, totally freaking out and begging her to just stay inside. Layla says she gets it, but she can't look away because she has to see exactly what's going down on the battlefield. The dragon is straight up shredding the enemy lines with insane power, and Burgundy's. Windy takes a massive swing and the guy just drops like a rock. Layla's jaw drops when she realizes it's not a guy but a total doll. And Indigo explains it's all thanks to the Queen of Vavaland's magic. And honestly, it's not like they're fighting real people, so he just charges right in. He immediately orders the magic bow squad to get ready, and the whole team aims their weapons right at the swarm of enemies filling the sky, waiting for his. He gives the signal and the arrows blast into the sky with perfect aim, and then they split. Spruce's magic kicks in to power them up, making them glow like crazy and zoom off even faster. Just like we thought, Spruce's timing is totally on point and his power boost is literally perfect, even with all that drag. The Dragon King mumbles that it's finally time to end this whole thing with one massive finishing blow. A tiny fireball sparks in his mouth as he gets ready to let it rip. He lets out a breath and it turns into a massive wave of fire, torching every single enemy attacking him from the sky. Zula covers her face, her heart racing like crazy, but then the Dragon King suddenly closes the gap. He looks her way for a split second and she totally freezes up, wondering if she really just locked eyes with the Dragon King. The rest of the enemies see the Dragon King's insane firepower and start running for their lives, letting her finally breathe as she whispers that they actually did it. And Indigo confirms the attack is totally over. The dragon finally slams onto the dirt and Layla rushes forward, gets asked if he's hurt, but he just shakes his head. He tilts his head and asks if his scary face freaked her out, but she just shakes her head no. She shakes her head with a massive grin, finally feeling relieved after being so worried about him. But honestly, she's totally blown away seeing him go all out for everyone, realizing he really is the legendary Dragon King, even though she literally called him a monster when they first met. She's still feeling a bit guilty about it, but right then, he starts to transform. He shifts back into his human self and gives her a smirk, teasing her about that name she totally just called him. Later on, everyone is at the nurse's office getting fixed up, and Magenta is right there in the middle of it. She's fussing over Burgundy while he whines for her to be careful, but she just snaps at him to shut it and calls him a total meathead. He mumbles that if he's really such a legendary warlord, he should be able to win without getting a single scratch. Burgundy mumbles that he actually fought hard, but Magenta just stares him down with a super annoyed, scrunched-up face. Right then, Spruce shows up with that same old blank look on his face. Layla just gives him a dead stare and points out that Burgundy trashed the magic gear, asking if he even knows how much of a pain it is to charge that thing up just once. Layla walks up and asks where to dump the enemy's leftover junk, but Magenta tells her to just leave everything to Spruce. He tells him to set up a magic circle and toss it in so he can rain destruction right on the kingdom of Vavl. Spruce shrub. He shrugs it off like it's nothing, explaining that the king's power is just built different. Turning into a dragon isn't some basic spell, it's a royal power passed down through the bloodline that proves you're a direct descendant of the Dragon King himself. Burgundy's like, that's probably why the Queen of Vavl is so obsessed with this. Layla was totally clueless and straight up thought he was just a pet. A sudden sharp noise stops the scouts in their tracks, and Spruce's face immediately drops. She's looking totally annoyed as fireworks blast behind her, and she just walks right out into the bright daylight. He steps outside with the others and suddenly stops dead as a memory hits him. Suddenly, it all comes back to her. The Queen of Vavl said she'd eventually go to the Dragon Kingdom to lead them, just as a firework bursts. Those fireworks were the signal, and the second they went off, every single memory came flooding back as her hand. She grabs her head in total shock as the truth finally hits her. It all finally clicks. She's actually a Vavillian, and every single memory just came rushing back to her. In her past life, she was just a normal girl living in modern Japan. She ended up slipping on some trash left on the floor and took a nasty fall. And yeah, believe it or not, but out of everything, she actually got reincarnated as a Vavillian. For 20 whole years, she grew up living a totally normal life as just another regular Vavillian. One day, while she was just grinding as a low-level cook in the royal palace, This lady was totally bullying her, claiming the queen was demanding to see her. Layla followed the woman to the queen's room with her head spinning, totally clueless about what was going on. Since she hadn't done anything special, she was honestly expecting to just get kicked. When they finally made it, the queen was sitting there looking totally regal with her royal assistant standing right by her side. Queen signaled for Layla to grab a seat and stay right there. She said they'd be talking for a while, so she figured she'd just wait. She hands Layla a cup of tea that tastes weirdly sweet, and Layla just gulps it down. He took a careful sip, still totally unsure what this whole meeting was even about. The queen leaned back and asked if Layla remembered their rival Dragon Kingdom, and Layla just nodded without even thinking, just like everyone. Everyone in Vavl knew the Dragon Kingdom was their massive rival, hogging all the best land and stealing their old territory, and back then, everyone just accepted it as a fact of life. Layla started getting a really bad vibe just from how chill the queen was acting. The queen basically said all their outside attacks were total flops, and doing the same thing over and over was She told them her real plan was to make the Dragon Kingdom fall apart from the inside. She told Layla she'd sneak into the Dragon Kingdom and wait for the perfect moment to lead the Vavl soldiers straight into the king's castle once she gave the signal. The signal was going to be fireworks to show it was go time, so the queen handed her a magic smoke flare that confuses anyone nearby, and Layla was ready for action. They had to spread it out super carefully, and while the magic did its thing, Vavl's main army would charge the castle. The queen said it was an easy job, but the timing, her eyes went wide as she just stood there frozen, realizing a simple cook like her was way out of her league. It looked like a total mistake, but the queen revealed her water mirror saw this coming the whole time. Old Magic chose Layla for the mission, and her assistant was about to prove it wasn't just a lucky guess. This wasn't some random mistake. It was a total pro move by the... She just whispered to herself that the whole thing was totally insane, but the queen was already moving. The queen chilled out for a second and admitted the mirror's prediction isn't a sure thing, but she'd still rather take a gamble than just sit around doing nothing. Layla thought the whole plan was straight up crazy, especially the part where she had to sneak in, but she just took another sip of tea and tried to stay chill. She tried to calm her nerves with a sip of tea, but then the queen casually asked if the medicine mixed inside tasted okay. Layla froze in place as her heart skipped a beat, but the queen just kept right on talking. If anyone finds out Layla is actually a Vavilion, it's game over, because even though her cooking is fire, keeping her secret is way more important. Sheila's head was totally spinning and she could barely even understand what was happening. The queen leaned in and told her she was going to forget every single thing she'd ever been through. Without. So Layla was totally safe for now, but jumping back to the present, Layla grabs her head, her eyes going wide like she can't even believe what's happening. Magenta rushes over and shakes her, asking what's going on, while Layla just blinks back at her. She blinks like she just woke up and stammers out a messy apology, her mind totally spinning because she already died in her past life. She was never going back to her old world, and get this, she's actually a total villain working as a secret spy. Magenta notices Layla looks super pale and offers to call the head nurse, but Layla starts shaking her head like crazy to stop her. Wait, I should make sure it sounds like a... She was shaking like crazy while standing in the Dragon Kingdom. This whole country is just a mindless tool for the queen, and even though she lost her memory, she still fought her way here, but this latest move is just insane. The real Dragon Kingdom is actually super chill and always tries to be nice to everyone. He's building a home for this lonely girl, who swore right before she died in her past life that she'd finally live for real this time. She's got to make this choice for herself, so Layla looks at Magenta with total dread and says she's finally ready to spill the truth to everyone. The whole kitchen goes dead silent as everyone turns around and just freezes. She's actually a Vavilion, a secret spy from the enemy nation, and she's the real deal. The truth hits them hard, and suddenly the whole room explodes as everyone starts shouting at once. Taupe snaps at them, reminding herself that this is her kitchen and she's the boss. She steps forward with a frown, demanding to know what Layla's next move is. She can't believe Layla would be stupid enough to leak all her secrets and then admit she's a traitor. But Layla quickly blurts out that she'd never do something like that. Taupe smirks to himself, thinking Layla isn't that bright, and he wonders if the others are actually going to fall for her act as he uses Fawn's step. He steps up and tells her to hold on, because that whole memory loss story could be a total lie. He just laughs it off, thinking if Layla was actually dangerous, she would have poisoned their food ages ago, especially since she's the one who made the kitchen way better for everyone. One by one, the rest of the crew starts nodding because they're all totally on board. Layla just watches them in silence, her eyes sparkling with all those feelings, until finally the whole squad shows they truly trust her, and she's just so thankful for it. Her chest fills with liquid and she doubles over, flipping completely upside down. Hope's face gets all serious again, knowing she can't just brush this off, and she looks right at Fawn. Vaughn points a finger right at her, saying the Dragon King has to hear about this, so now they're just waiting for his orders, and Layla better be ready for whatever punishment he drops on her. Back in her room, Layla pulls open her drawer and stares at the tiny tube inside, and now she's finally making her move. She finally realizes why she couldn't afford to lose, because this confusion spell isn't something she can just shake off by tomorrow. She's got to tell the Dragon King the whole truth, and her stomach is doing flips as she wonders what... He's gonna lose his mind when he finally finds out the truth, and then the next day hits. She's kneeling right in front of the Dragon King while judgy officials stare her down, and 2 guards stand stiffly behind her. "If that's all you've got, Layla." Layla quietly says yeah, and then he just slams it. He smashes his hand against the throne, making a massive bang ring through the room, and orders her to look him in the eyes and tell him if that's really all she's got while she's paralyzed with fear. He's digging his claws into her chest, but she looks him right in the eyes and swears she's telling the truth. She knows she owes the Dragon King big time for taking her in when she was all alone, so she refuses to betray this kingdom and is ready to face whatever punishment comes her way for being a... The officials go totally ballistic, screaming that her confession isn't enough, and the king needs to be super harsh to show everyone he's not playing around. The Dragon King just stops, staying totally silent with a face you can't even read. He finally orders her to be locked away, saying he'll deal with her for good once the Vavilion mess is sorted out. Burgundy's eyes go wide when she hears she's not actually getting kicked out. Indigo just scowls and mutters that the guy is a total moron. If she got... He looks over at the king and realizes that the weight of this whole moment is now totally on him. A guard grabs Layla and starts dragging her away, and even though she's totally panicking and screaming for the king to help, he doesn't do a single thing. He stays dead silent as they drag her straight to prison. She's stuck in prison, but her eyes go wide as she looks around and realizes the place is way bigger than she thought. It's way smaller than her usual room, and the furniture is super basic, but the sheets are fresh and she's even got a lamp. He reminds her that the Dragon King went out of his way to make her comfortable, so she should probably start acting a little more grateful. Layla is straight up running her fingers over the sheets while she's still hanging out in my bed. She's a bit shocked that even in a crazy spot like this, the Dragon King is still making sure she's comfortable. Every word and every move he's made so far just proves he's actually a super kind person. The pressure is totally crushing her, but she's so loyal that she'd never turn her back on him, even if she's terrified of letting him down. But then she remembers his intense stare and that voice demanding to know if that was really all she had. Tears start blurring her vision as she realizes she's completely stuck with no clue what to do next. Fawn heads back to the Dragon King to report that the girl is locked in the tower room, exactly like he ordered, and the Dragon King mumbles to himself and looks over at the table, noticing the miso soup is totally missing tonight, and Fawn has... One guy freezes up, totally second-guessing his next move. They ask what the plan is and suggest the kitchen make a replacement, but the Dragon King just shakes his head. He's totally locked in and decides he doesn't even need a backup. Back in the tower room, someone gives Layla a gentle shake to wake her up. Caleb is just mumbling in her sleep since it's way too early, and Magenta totally snaps at how carefree she's being. She tells her to shut up, pressing a finger to her lips while giving her a deadly look. She tells them she gave the guard a little gift, some special kitchen soup spiked with sleeping herbs to knock him out. She uses the soup to make her getaway possible, winking as she says they basically run the castle by controlling everyone's food. She tosses Layla a cloak and tells her to hurry up, making Layla ask if she's actually helping her escape. She asks what's going to happen to her if they do that, but she's told to shut up before she can even finish saying. Anyway, she doesn't even need to stress about her anymore since she's finally heading out. Layla steps outside and stops dead in her tracks because it's not just Magenta waiting. Every single maid from the kitchen and the whole castle is lined up and ready for action, and Topa, the rope, snatches her arm and starts whispering orders in a deep voice, warning her that they're officially out of time. She's gonna sneak Layla out of the castle and hide her at her sister's shop in town, where she'll finally be safe. Pope says Wisteria's maids are guarding the whole castle, so nobody's gonna catch them sneaking out. They're even having Magenta and the crew walk her to the shop, so she's got nothing to worry about. Magenta flashes a smile at Layla, reminding her she told her not to stress, because this wasn't just her choice. They're all in this mess together now. Layla's voice shakes as she blurts out that if things don't change fast, Taupe is totally going to lose his spot. The Dragon King himself was the one who ordered her to be locked up, so if they let her escape, they're going to face a nightmare punishment. But Taupe just stands there with a smirk. She tells Layla that she totally flipped the vibe in the kitchen and changed how they work, and they're all seriously grateful for her help. When you really think about it, the whole thing is just super weird because they spent forever terrified of the Dragon King without even meeting him, constantly stressing over tiny mistakes and living in total fear until they were just completely burnt out. Wisteria nods her head, backing him up and saying it's the real deal. After years of working in the castle, she finally realizes she'd just gotten used to being stuck in that miserable place. She'd been stuck there so long that she totally zoned out, missing a ton of things right in front of her. She says Layla's vibe totally shocked her at first, but after that whole fridge incident, even the big-shot military and magic commanders started chilling in the kitchen. They chowed down on Layla's home cooking and loved every bite. But more than that, they finally felt close, like normal people just hanging out and talking about the retina. After seeing how the retainer acts and hearing Layla's story, Wisteria starts to think that maybe the Dragon King isn't actually as scary as she first thought. Magenta says that after yesterday's attack, she realized the heroes who usually fight for the country were actually out there fighting for them, too. Another maid quietly speaks up, admitting they were so terrified of the people in charge that they didn't even realize they were being protected the whole time. They were so terrified of the big shots that they built a massive wall to hide behind, but Layla was the one who finally stepped up and broke through it for them. Toast. She stands her ground and says this is exactly why she won't let the Dragon King lay a finger on Layla. Layla knows leaving her behind would be a total mistake, and her pride as a loyal follower won't let her do it. She starts tearing up because she never dreamed they actually felt this way about her. She only got those side jobs because of what she remembered from her past life, and since she didn't know the Dragon King was a big deal, she wasn't even scared to. Is she seriously just gonna bail right now? She's racking her brain for a way to help, but even if she cooks for everyone, she knows it won't change a single thing. Suddenly, she gets a wild idea and asks Topin for just a second before they make a run for it. She says she's sorry for dragging everyone into this mess, but if she's gonna escape, she wants to leave something behind that actually matters. So she tells them that before they head out, she's gonna bait Vavl's soldiers straight into a trap. That's a genius plan, a voice suddenly says from right behind her. She spins around in total shock to find Burgundy, Indigo, and Spruce standing right there, and she blurts out that it sounds like they want in on the mission. She's really starting to doubt if they should even be messing with this, but Indigo just shrugs it off like it's nothing. He's totally down with the drugs as long as the king stays in the dark, since his high status means he can't get his hands dirty himself. She steps up to grant the wish instead, but she's super nervous and asks if the Dragon King really wants this, so Indigo promises it's for real, and that he's doing it just... Spruce is sure the king would totally help her out, but Burgundy shuts that down, reminding her that he's got a big reputation to protect. Indigo stays totally chill and says handling the drama is just part of the job for his crew, so he tells them to listen to the Miso Soup Girl's plan, and right after Indigo wraps up her explanation by saying she's gonna feed the enemy some special herbal miso soup to knock them out cold. She says yeah, she got the idea after watching Magenta knock out a guard with some herbal soup. Burgundy gives her a crazy look and asks if she actually pulled that off. She starts He gets dead serious, figuring out from the queen's tone that actual living soldiers are the ones heading their way this time. She says they'll be starving after that long trip, so once she feeds them, they'll relax and pass out instantly. Magenta jumps in looking super worried, asking what they'll do if the queen sends more doll soldiers, and pointing out their plan might totally fail, since they have no idea when backup is actually coming. Go stays totally chill and tells everyone that things are still gonna be fine. The queen is safe for now because she can't spam her magic every day, but his spies say the enemy is already sneaking troops near the Dragon King's castle, just waiting for Layla. She starts freaking out because she realizes that Signal Flare is actually packed with a confusion spell. Before she can even finish, the totally stone-faced Spruce pulls out a tube and reveals he actually swiped the real one from her room to break the curse himself. It's a crazy powerful spell with a super simple formula, a total brute force move that's classic for Queen Burgundy. Indy thinks the gadget is just a lame smoke bomb now, but Indigo points out that the enemy has no clue, so they should keep using it to bluff. Spruce tells them they need to get ready before lighting the signal fire, which means gathering a ton of soup ingredients and picking that sleeping grass. Bruce says they should totally power up the sleeping effect by mixing herbs with magic, and with that, and just like that, the whole squad kicks off their secret souvenir strategy. Everyone is giving it their absolute all, and the big plan kicks off with she's going along with Layla's plan and secretly praying it works out perfectly while she's totally lost in her own head. She's totally lost in her own head and doesn't even notice Magenta sneaking right up on her. He asks what's wrong, and Layla reminds him she's literally an escaped convict, wondering if that's going to be a huge problem. Is it seriously okay to leave the tower totally empty? Magenta starts to realize the danger. He tells her not to sweat it because they've already got a perfect backup ready to go. While that's happening, the guards are low-key moving food with totally blank expressions. Hidden under the blanket, the substitute is totally knocked out. Someone whispers that she's been out cold the whole time, while Fawn hides under the bed, muttering to himself and wondering why he's even in this mess. Taupe warned him that the maids were all super busy, so he had to stay put and sleep the whole time just to keep from getting caught. Somewhere else in the castle, an assistant gives the Dragon King some updates, but when the king asks about Fawn, he finds out the guy is in really bad shape. The king notices that Indigo and Spruce are totally slammed too, and jumping back to, the whole squad is just standing there, staring at the massive setup they've got ready to go. Layla whispers under her breath, just hoping that everything actually turns out okay. Indigo stays totally chill and tells them they just have to play their part. Layla twists the tube open, and a thin trail of smoke starts drifting into the air. The signal shoots up and fireworks explode across the sky as Vavl finally answers back. They're just trying to finish their soup when heavy footsteps echo through the room, making everyone freeze as the Dragon King roars, asking if they're having a secret meeting behind his back. Back there, things go totally wild as everyone starts muttering and talking over each other at once. Indigo lets out a massive sigh and shouts over the noise, asking if this whole thing is just a trap to bait Vavl out. Diego steps up and apologizes, claiming he only wanted to help because they looked like they were in a jam. The Dragon King pouts for a second, but Layla steps up with a bow and says she's super sorry for going rogue and doing her own thing. She explains she just wanted to help him and everyone in the castle, making the Dragon King let out a long breath as his voice softens with total respect. He says he totally gets why they had to stop him and isn't even mad, but then, out of nowhere, he gives her a sad pat on the head and warns her to stop acting so wild from now on. She's grinding away for the Dragon King's castle, and he's ready to jump in and help her out. Indigo and the crew finally breathe a sigh of relief, and you can see big smiles starting to pop up on everyone's faces. Right then, a messenger bursts in screaming that the enemy army is closing in. The enemy army is charging straight for the castle, and they're moving way faster than anyone saw coming. While everyone else dives for cover, the Dragon King tells Layla to just shout if things get scary, promising he'll be right there to save her. She looks him right in the eye and grins, promising she's going to give it everything she's got. The army finally hits the castle and finds the gates wide open, exactly like Layla predicted. Sheila steps forward looking totally confident and tells them she's been waiting for their arrival, thanking them for making the long trip. The soldiers' eyes snap right to her and that massive pot sitting behind her. One guy whispers, wondering if she's really the spy maid and what's hidden in that massive pot. But Layla just stares them down because she's definitely the one they're looking. She's got a pot of warm soup ready for everyone and starts explaining that this was all part of the Queen's secret plan, and she promised the drink would totally recharge their energy and make them way stronger. But there's something hidden in the book. From the bushes, Magenta glances at her, and she looks totally worried. She leans in close and whispers that they've got to trust her and keep their eyes peeled. The army leader narrows his eyes, sounding super suspicious as he asks if this is actually the Queen's plan. Layla's sweating bullets and totally panicking now that everyone's onto her, so she's desperately trying to figure out how to get them back on board with the plan. She stands up straight and gets all serious, telling them the Queen gave this job to a lowly maid like her because it was Ness. Was that even needed? Are they really about to blow off the Queen's orders? These soldiers are wild. They trade some super nervous looks before he jumps on the best opening he's got. Layla moves fast, filling their bowls with soup and telling them to eat up so they can get their energy back and hit the enemy with everything they've got. Finally, one soldier takes a sip of the soup, and his eye goes totally wide. His eyes pop open as he shouts that it's actually incredible. Layla finally lets out a quiet breath of relief once they're done. Once they're done, the general shouts for the whole army to charge straight toward the Dragon King's castle. Out of nowhere, one soldier just drops like a rock, and the leader watches in shock as the rest of his squad They start falling asleep one by one, and the pure dread is seriously kicking in. The Dragon King calls out to Layla from behind the bushes to see how things are going, and she starts to reply. He confirms the plan worked perfectly, and now Burgundy and all the other students are totally out cold. They rush forward to tie up the soldiers, and then the Dragon King steps in. Even King jumps in and tells Spruce to tie them up as well. Lewis raises his staff, and the Rokes start coiling and squeezing the trapped soldiers all on their own. Then Magenta asks what the next move is. The Dragon King takes charge and tells them to round up all the captured soldiers in one spot. He tells Spruce to whip up the magic formula so they can bring the soldier back. He tells Indigo to write a massive complaint to the Queen and demand she pays back every single cent. He boosts his power by 50% with a totally blank face, and Layla gives him the green light. She let out a tiny, relieved smile, knowing that everything was finally over. The plan worked like a charm, and now the Dragon King is standing right next to her, hyping up her He admits he spent days stressing over whether he'd need more power, but Layla just shrugs it off, saying it was easy since the enemy was a total moron. He straight up admits he knew she wasn't a traitor, but he still went through with it anyway. But he actually threw Layla in a cell just because the elders were bossing him around. Kayla brushes off his apology and says she's the one who should be sorry for stressing him out like that. She tells him they're just trading apologies, and he's left standing there totally shocked. He cups her cheek and tells her he was thinking about her every single second she was stuck alone in enemy territory with her memories on the line. He knows how lonely and terrified she must have felt, Even though the queen kept getting in the way, he's honestly just glad she showed up at the Dragon Kingdom and tells her that having her there is the best gift ever. She knows the Dragon King is super busy with all his royal duties, but she just wants him to eat good food and laugh at her dumb jokes because seeing him happy is all her heart really wants. Her heart starts racing the moment she realizes she's catching feelings, and right then, he calls her. He calls out her name and says he wants to be with her forever just like before, and since her plan worked, he totally believes the lie. The elders are letting her off the hook, and once she's officially cleared, she'll finally be back by his side. Just as she starts to relax, the army leader snaps awake and loses it because he was played. Shouting, he warns her that he's snitching to the queen and swears he'll be back with a way bigger army next time. Spruce casually knocks him out cold with his staff and says, the dragon admits he's actually impressed that the guy is fighting so hard to stay awake even though they're enemies. King steps up to make it official, but Layla is just standing there with her heart pounding, wondering what the army will think since she knows this win is actually just the start of the... Toku walks up and asks what her next move is now that the plan has totally changed, but Layla just shuts him down. Layla knows she has to stick to the plan and ditch the Dragon King's castle, so she's heading to her sister's shop to hide out until the next phase kicks off. She thinks she's finally got her memory back, but the queen might have left a secret mission buried in her head that could trigger at any moment. And besides, plus, it's only a matter of time before Vavl's crew finds out she backstabbed them, so if she stays put... Layla knows that staying at the Dragon King's castle will just cause more trouble for everyone, so she makes a snap decision and calls out for Taupe. Layla tells Taupe she's heading out right now, just like they planned. Taupe stares her down, asking if she's really 100% sure about this choice. Layla's totally fine with this since it's all going according to plan, and after leaving behind one last gift for them to remember her by, she decides to just vanish while everyone is still caught up in the chaos. When it's all said and done, he's making this choice just to look out for the Dragon King. Taupe gives a soft smile and says that since Layla's already made her choice, she's not going to get in her way. She tells the guys to take Layla to her sister's shop through the back gate like they planned, then tells her to hurry up, but Layla starts explaining. She finally says thanks, since she couldn't tell the kitchen crew earlier, but Taupe tells her it's all good and not to worry about it anymore. She tells Layla to make sure she thanks the Dragon King when the time comes, and Layla's totally cool with that. She finally tells her to get moving before anyone spots them. Layla throws on her cloak and starts heading out, but she can't stop thinking about everyone she's leaving behind. Then her mind goes straight to the Dragon King, the first person she ever really loved. Magenta is absolutely losing it because Layla just ghosted everyone, and even though Burgundy tells her to chill out and that there's probably a reason, she isn't having any of it. Santa snaps that she already knows, but her attitude cools off almost instantly. Her face totally drops as she struggles to explain how she really feels. It's not just that she's mad, she's actually super disappointed. She just wished Layla would. Divinity quietly agrees and ruffles her hair, casually reminding her that Layla was super important to her too. Magenta's face turns bright red from the surprise, but when she looks up, he's already looking totally distant as he adds that plenty of others in the castle are struggling too, and then we head over to the study. Back in the study room, the Dragon King leans his head on his hand and lets out a long, tired breath. Indigo points out that the Dragon King's pride is basically in the trash now. The dragon wonders out loud if that girl who was only around for a tiny bit really changed him that much. The Dragon King stays silent at first, but when he finally speaks, his voice is super quiet, and right then, Layla's eyes were totally honest in that moment, and he really thought she was going to stay at the castle with him. But she ended up ditching him without saying a single word. He starts wondering if her staying so quiet during the mission was actually just her getting ready to make a run for it. He admits they'd talked about it before, but everyone was so caught up in the chaos that they forgot, and honestly, Layla probably didn't even think about leaving until the very last second. She was totally locked in on the plan and looking out for everyone, which Indigo says proves she's legit, since a liar would never act like that. Indigo admits that the Dragon King's power is a total nightmare to deal with when the second the Dragon King locks eyes with someone, he sees their entire truth whether he wants to or not, and this power is way beyond any normal magic. The Dragon King snaps back, saying he totally regrets ever getting this insane power. He can sense every fake compliment, the hidden greed, and the fear people have for him, But everything changes when it comes to Layla. Kayla never faked a thing, and every time they locked eyes, you could tell she was being 100% real. She found out he was the Dragon King but still treated him like a normal guy, and even after remembering she was a Vavillian spy, she never once lied to him. He suddenly stands up, saying there's something he's got to point out. When the Dragon King first called them all together, those high-ranking officials were seriously annoyed. This low-level guard is finally climbing the ranks and he's heading straight for the top. The sun was shining bright right over the Magic Academy. He was just a maid's kid who only had his wits, making him nothing like the rest of them. They were the perfect match for him, so the Dragon King hand-picked them and kept them all to himself. He was so close, so next time he's just got to trust his gut exactly like he did before. Taupe says his spy network will handle the rest, and he pulls out a card showing exactly where Layla is hiding. So now, he tells them they've got to get their act together and prep hard before they start talking business with Vavl. He's got way too much on his plate right now, but when the timing is finally perfect, the Dragon King needs to go see her. A month passes at the Tame cafe, and Layla's co-worker shouts that Table 2 just ordered some miso soup. Hope's little sister Layla just laughs, bragging about how the whole thing was a massive success. Kayla's cooking turned those dead sales into a total hype train. Her sister was totally right. The staff can't even handle basic cleaning, so Layla is stuck doing everything every single day. But she is. Layla's being looked after in her own way, and when Mob asks what she's cooking, she tells him she's making some steamed egg custard. She's already got the dashi stock ready, but she wants a dish that's totally unique to her shop, so she takes a taste. She takes a bite and realizes it's actually fire, looking just like pudding but without the sweetness, making it the perfect side for the rest of her meal. Out of nowhere, someone shouts her name and she whips around instantly to see who it is. She rushes over to apologize to a super annoyed customer, and since she's using her old name to stay hidden, she's still not totally used to it as she moves around. She shifts, glances toward the window for a split second, and her mind starts racing with a new idea. He's staring at someone way off in the distance but the second she walks back into the cafe, she stops dead in her tracks. She freezes on the spot when she sees guards from the Dragon King's castle sitting at a table, and her breath completely stops. She holds her breath and tries to sneak past them, but her luck totally runs out. Right when she needs it most, her luck totally fails her as she trips and face plants, sending her basket flying and seaweed scattering all over the place. Mob sprints out to see what all the noise is about, and Layla looks up through her tears, her voice shaking as she admits she messed up again. Mob says that's not gonna cut it and reaches out to help her up, while barking at a guy nearby to go grab a mop right now. This mysterious guy in a big cloak is just watching everything go down in total silence. As soon as he's outside, he pulls a folded note right out of his sleeve with a mysterious look. He whispers a quick spell, and the paper suddenly twists and folds itself into a tiny bird. The bird gives one big flap and blasts off into the sky, heading right for its target. The queen gets the letter right away, and the second she reads it, her face completely twists with pure rage. She's absolutely furious and demands to know what's going on, because that girl was sent to the Dragon Kingdom as the perfect candidate, and this mess was definitely not part of their original deal. But what really sets her off is that girl being so buddy-buddy with the Dragon King, and just thinking about it makes her grind her teeth in total rage. She snaps at Weld to build the ultimate army right now using that emergency secret spell. Since things are this bad, she's pulling out her absolute last resort. She'll even jump into the fight. Meanwhile, the Dragon King is stuck at his desk, trying to force himself to finish a massive pile of boring paperwork and reports. But then he looks over at the plate next to him, and her cookies are still sitting right there. He picks it up slowly, and out of nowhere, Layla's smiling face just pops into his head. Suddenly, Indigo's words hit him out of nowhere, reminding him that when the time is right, he's got to go and bring her back for real. He takes a quick look out the window and tells her to just wait for him on the other side. Meanwhile, the queen tells everyone to wait up because she's about to show him who's boss and teach him a lesson he'll never forget. Layla's dreaming, and she sees every single person living in the king's castle. She blurts out, "What am I even doing here?" And they just tell her it's getting late. She's got to move fast and get that miso soup to the Dragon King right away. She's totally sure she's right, and the Dragon King is definitely waiting for her. Suddenly, someone shouts her name and her eyes go totally wide. She snaps her eyes open to find Mob standing right over her, looking totally confused as he asks what she was just mumbling about in her sleep. He points out that she's acting super salty for someone who just woke up. Just as Layla's about to speak, Mob shushes her and points straight toward the window. This dude's been popping up since last night and he looks totally sketchy. Mob says her business instincts are screaming that there's no way that guy is actually from the Dragon Kingdom. Layla looks where she's pointing. Even from way over there, she spots a guy with super bright hair. Her heart totally drops. That's Vavl's signature color. It hits. Everyone here is going to get dragged into this mess, so Mob tells her to listen close. It just so happens a supplier is heading to a seaside village for ingredients soon, and he can set it. Mob calls her name again, her voice getting soft as sadness washes over her face, and she tells her it's okay, because even if she doesn't know the whole story, she can tell Layla is in some major trouble. She doesn't hesitate for a second as she tells Layla to hurry up and get ready. Mila bows low, thanking Mob for looking out for her even though it was only for a little bit. The supplier helps her vanish into the cargo, burying her deep under crates and piles of cloth. The wagon starts rolling away, and Layla finally hits the harsh reality that she doesn't belong here anymore. She's getting pulled further away from the Dragon King's castle every second, and after a while, the supplier tells her they're almost at the village. Layla looks outside and her eyes go straight to the ocean. The sun is sparkling on the waves, looking so peaceful like nothing could ever go wrong. It's so beautiful, it literally... He let out a little laugh, mentioning how the lady at the pub made a massive scene when he was leaving. He was totally confused, but then he tells Layla she's way too chill, and all she can do is give him a tiny, weak smile. They get to the drop-off point, and the supplier tells her to hang out nearby while he finishes grabbing the goods. Kayla walks into the market and her eyes are popping out because she's totally blown away by everything she sees. It's totally mind-blowing, and she wonders if the castle's food gets moved the same way, passed from person to person through every single town. She thinks it's actually pretty cool how every town is full of people just living their lives, working, making friends, and finding a spot where they truly fit in. She remembers the Dragon King saying the whole country is struggling just like this, and he's dead set on protecting it. The supplier finally hits her up and says it's time to bounce, and he tells her what's next. He tells her he'll just drop her off at a decent town further down the road. She's got to get out of there because even for the Dragon King's sake, she just can't stay. Then, out of nowhere, everything just goes totally wild right in front of her. Suddenly, a massive dark portal rips open in the sky, and a swarm of tiny dragons pours out around one giant beast, with the queen standing on its back, grinning because she finally found Layla. Panic explodes the moment the Vavl army raids the market, leaving everyone frozen in fear before they scramble away, wondering why the enemy is even there. And it's because someone big just... A messenger bolts toward the nearest guard post while Layla gets ready for action. She slams her hands over her mouth in total shock as the peaceful market suddenly turns into pure madness. The supplier screams at her to run, but she's completely paralyzed once she realizes the queen is staring her down. She bolts toward the queen, yelling that Layla is the only one they want and to leave everyone else alone. The queen tilts her head with a smirk, saying it's actually pretty thoughtful of Layla to show up all by herself. The dock cracks and splinters under the queen's magic, sending debris crashing down. A deadly wave of power crashes right toward Layla as the queen makes her move. The queen is absolutely fuming that some low-class maid thinks she can just swoop in and steal the Dragon King away from her. Magic explodes around Layla and sends her flying into the air, while the queen promises to get her a face-to-face meeting with the Dragon King. Layla's heart is pounding because she ditched the castle to keep everyone safe, but now innocent people are getting dragged into the chaos anyway. The queen just flicks her hand and sends Layla flying straight into the air. He catches her and jokes that she must really love landing on him, and she just freezes right there. She totally freezes up in his arms, but he keeps a firm grip and looks down with a small, chill smile to let her know it's okay. Indigo's like, "Whoa, that was a super close call, right?" But then, good thing that transfer was right on time, because Spruce is right behind him raising his staff as a glowing magic circle appears in the air. The queen's like, "Oh my," totally mocking her for letting that low-rank prisoner fall. She was totally shocked that even the third general showed up for this. She looks right at the king and tells him she's actually happy to see him as an indigo glow starts to appear. He looks at Raphael and sees they're totally outnumbered, but Raphael just says he'll blow them all away in a heartbeat. Layla looks at him, looking totally stressed that they're gonna try and use the Dragon King's power again for the queen. She flashes a grin and promises she won't let that go down as she starts to stand up. She steps forward looking like a total boss and starts casting a spell, making the Dragon King glare and demand to know what she's up to. Spruce loses it right away, screaming in total shock that it's actually the dragon sealing barrier. Burgundy looks over, totally freaked out and confused, asking what he means, while Spruce seriously explains that the queen has planned every little detail inside this barrier. Raphael can't even turn into a dragon, and the queen is totally onto him. She looks at Weld and praises his hard work, making him grin with pride as he says it's a massive honor to get the queen's recognition. Lean's betting that if he can't transform into a dragon, their army is way more powerful. Indigo yells at Spruce, who quickly throws up his staff to block the attack as the queen watches. Queen's magic hits and the staff just shatters into pieces right away. Spruce screams as an arrow zooms right at them in a total split second. Burgundy lunges forward in a heartbeat, swinging his sword to knock the arrow out of the air and save them. The queen orders her army to ignore the Dragon King and blast everyone else instead. She looks at the Dragon King with total love in her eyes, begging him to finally stop his stubborn fighting. She asks for a favor, and Layla just stands there feeling totally on edge. The Dragon King snaps and demands to know exactly what she wants. Her face totally changes in a heartbeat, like someone just flipped a switch. She flashes a massive grin, throws her arms wide, and tells him straight up that he's gonna marry her. Everyone just stops dead in their tracks, totally stunned by Layla's next move. Kayla's head is spinning because the queen just went from being super violent to acting all bubbly and demanding marriage. Like, what is this lady even talking about? The queen tries to justify it, saying that if the rulers of these massive nations get married, both countries will end up way richer together. The Dragon King totally loses it, screaming that the whole thing is just a load of garbage. If they team up, it'll completely wreck the country and ruin everyone's lives right then and there. Layla blurts out that he's totally right, and that puts S in a really tough spot. They're forcing this marriage, but does anyone even care how the Dragon King feels? And then there's the queen. Queen snaps at her to shut up and heads for the window. Suddenly, the air around Layla whips up into a massive, violent tornado. Just like that, Layla vanishes right into it and leaves the queen behind. The queen just stands there with a totally blank look, whispering that everything is finally quiet now. The Dragon King shouts and tries to jump in, but Burgundy grabs him right then. Jesus stops him right there, warning him not to do anything stupid. Indigo looks dead serious as he warns the king that even Burgundy can't handle this much power, telling him to stop being so reckless and straight up cursing him out. He mumbles a curse, holding back only because they warned him to stay put. Layla plummets from the sky and slams into a tree, letting out a huge breath because that crash actually saved her from way worse danger. The villagers all start calling out to her, reaching up to help her get down from the branches. She thought everyone had made a clean getaway, but they were actually still hanging around, super worried about the Dragon King and the others. Everyone's wondering why he hasn't fought back yet, and they're just waiting for him to blast the enemy away. But as Layla gets her head back in the game, she remembers what Spruce. She's wondering if there's anything she can actually do to fix this. Right then, she spots a wagon and heads straight for it. He turns to the villagers and asks if they can help her out. Right then, the queen stands there looking like a total boss, holding out a contract and telling them that if we're getting nowhere like this, so why don't we just sign a marriage contract and settle this right now? If that goes down, she's promising to keep the Dragon Kingdom and the little girl safe, finally settling the whole situation for good. The Dragon King freezes, totally stuck on what to do next, wondering what the... He used to just blow off getting married by making excuses, but now he's in a huge mess because he can't use his dragon magic anymore. He's feeling totally weak after meeting Layla, but if staying quiet keeps her and the Dragon Kingdom safe, he's just gonna roll with it. Suddenly, someone yells his name and he whips his head around. He spins around and sees Layla and a guard crashing down the mountain in a wagon. A guard tries to jump in and stop it, but he completely whiffs it. The wagon slams straight into the barrier and smashes it to pieces without even slowing down. Raphael doesn't even hesitate as he shifts into his dragon form with a massive roar, leaving the guards gasping in fear. Everyone starts freaking out and screaming for people to run, while Layla just stands there in a total daze, completely blown away by his insane power and that burgundy glacier. He looks over to see if she's doing okay, and she starts to give him an answer. She tells him she's totally fine, and that she just took a wild ride with the wagon and broke a few things. The queen is absolutely livid and orders her troops to stop messing around and fight for real. But then things take a crazy turn. Suddenly, an invisible force knocks her off balance and she goes crashing into the water. The dragon touches down right next to Layla and morphs back into a human. But just as he starts to speak, she speaks up and tells the queen that everyone can already see who she really is. She's obsessed with being called beautiful and making everyone jealous, looking for a guy just as stuck up as she is. But none of her feelings are even real. He tells her to stop chasing ghosts and finally ditch that useless pride of hers. Everything goes dead silent for a second. Then the queen just loses it and starts bawling like a little kid with her mouth wide open and her face totally scrunched up. She's sobbing and wondering what she can even do, since as the queen of Vavl, she needs a husband who's actually worthy of her. And then there's the dragon. The Dragon King just sighs and starts walking away. So Layla totally panics and yells to ask if he's really just gonna leave her there, but he tells her not to sweat it because everything is totally fine and she's probably just overthinking. He's probably totally out of gas, so Welt lifts his weapon to finish him off. The queen is sobbing as she grabs her, and just like that, the magic circle pops up and teleports them both away. Indigo watches them head out and sighs about his annoying neighbors, thinking he better get paid back for all this drama. Layla turns to the Dragon King, thanking him for coming all this way while stressing over how she's even going to apologize. It was a total shock that she just left it behind, and he was definitely bummed out, but he only did that because he was looking out for everyone in the castle, right? Then he gets all quiet and says he's actually the one who should be sorry for moping around and taking way too long to finally come find her. She tells him he wasn't late at all since he caught her right before she hit the ground. And man, she is just so relieved and happy he showed up. She realizes he hasn't changed at all, and having the Dragon King right there gives her such a warm feeling as he cups her cheek and promises he's done waiting around and is finally going to back up his words with action. He doesn't just want her back to be his chef or play some tiny part. He wants her for something way bigger. But since she's his queen, the air around them feels totally different. The air gets super heavy, and even his own crew freezes up as everything goes dead quiet. She's totally caught off guard and blabs that this has to be a prank, but he turns bright red and swears he's being dead serious. Burgundy looks around totally stunned, muttering that this is exactly how the king wants to play it, while Indigo says he's just making random choices that feel way too sudden. The king gets all vulnerable and admits he always knew they'd end up like this, asking Layla if she hates it. But she just shakes her head and whispers that she doesn't hate it at all. Everything is so brand new that her brain is literally lagging while he keeps pushing forward. He gives her a soft kiss to keep her steady and tells her there's no rush to go back to the dragon castle, but she completely freezes up. He freezes up, heart pounding like crazy, and tells her he's never letting her go because he wants to drink her miso soup every single day. As his hand, he grabs her tight and drops a bombshell. He's finally reached his final form. He was totally obsessed and fell for every single part of her. After a bunch of drama and some crazy fights, the Dragon King finally made it back with Layla, and since they totally crushed the Vavl army, the danger is finally over for now. The Vice General can feel the massive tension inside the castle, even while everyone tries to act like things are totally normal. He'd promised himself he'd go get her when the timing was perfect, but as he's walking the halls, he realizes something is totally wrong, because Raphael hasn't made a move and she's completely disappeared from her job at Tia Mobu. He mumbles under his breath, trying to figure out what his next move is gonna be. He rounds the corner to find the officials totally losing it, arguing about why the Dragon King let that girl go, if she's a traitor, and if they should send the whole army to hunt her down right now. Indigo jumps right between them, warning that moving a huge army just gives Vavll an excuse to start trouble when the Dragon King's power already makes them way stronger anyway. One official snaps back, calling him out for stalling and asking why the king's right-hand man isn't making a move already. He tells them straight up that he's got this whole situation under control. He's just chilling at breakfast when Tope suddenly asks if he's running away like a total coward, but he just plays it off as a quick breather. Burgundy yells that there's no way they're taking on the big bosses while they're starving, and Indigo listens in. Go just gives him a dead stare, thinking Burgundy is being a total slacker again as he glances over. He stared down at his soup, realizing it was totally bland and had zero flavor. The staff meal today is totally mid, and Tope can't stop grumbling because he really misses that miso soup girl's cooking. He grumbles that he's got no choice, but he's stepping up anyway. But he's quick to tell her he'd totally take it if she's offering. Everyone can really feel she's gone, and Magenta remembers how Layla's early mistakes left a huge mark on everything, while Toke grumbles that the king really stuck them with a total handful. Magenta's face scrunches up as she starts wondering why the Dragon King even sent Layla to the kitchen in the first place. Burgundy just shrugs and keeps eating like he's got no clue, but Magenta pushes him, reminding him that the king personally brought her to this place. Burgundy swears he was just following orders, and since her rare hair and eyes made her stand out like crazy in a kingdom she knew nothing about, he had to keep a super close eye on her. Indigo's just sitting there, totally stuck on that mystery girl who literally dropped out of the sky. Maybe the king was too scared to let her roam the streets, so he kept her under watch at the castle. But why the heck is she hanging out in the kitchen? It's still a total mystery, and you can really feel the tension building up. The silence is shattered when Fawn slams into the kitchen, yelling for Magenta because he needs her help right now. She needs to get those bags moved and asks Magenta to unlock the door, so Magenta hands the key to a maid, reminding her it's just her travel clothes and some basic gear. While the maid walks out with that little bundle, Magenta asks her what she's really up to. The maid acts totally chill and says she's just moving it to a new room, and then the door swings open. The door swings open, and the room instantly gets super busy as maids rush in to swap the sheets and organize her stuff, while Wisteria watches their every move. Indigo stands there completely frozen, just trying to wrap his head around it. Before he can even ask his mom what's going on, she tells him it's a direct order from the king to get the room ready right now. Looking around, he realizes this is totally a girl's guest room. Wait, it looks like he's actually getting this place ready for someone to move in. After being so miserable just yesterday, what is he even thinking? I guess there's only one way. Suddenly, a messenger sprints up to Lord Indigo, bows fast, and hands over the report from the spy watching Tiamobu. Thought. A messenger bursts into the king's study to report that Layla snuck out of Tiamobu in a merchant's carriage early this morning, but Vavl's hunters were spotted. The king whispers under his breath that Layla is taking off for some faraway place yet again, and he's always just one step too slow. He asks Spruce straight up if he has any clue where she's hiding. Spruce is tracking her down, but it's super hard because she and her crew aren't even from this country. She's slowly vanishing into thin air, getting so blurry that it's almost impossible to keep track of her. He says if he can find something real that's packed with her feelings, tracking her down will be way easier. The king looks over at the cookie jar on his desk and says it's actually perfect for the job. Spruce jumps into action and starts setting up the transfer spell right away. Indigo's stressing about getting the council's okay, but the king shuts him down, saying the council doesn't matter at all as long as he has them by his side. He knows he was holding back before, but now he's done wasting time and is rushing straight to her. Indigo realizes the king's mind is already made up. Indigo finally realizes why the maids were working so hard on Layla's room, because the king is already treating her like his future queen. Indigo looks out Raphael's office window at the kitchen below and finally realizes why the king stuck her here from day one. He wanted her right where he could see her, even before he actually realized what he was doing. The whole plan was already moving in secret, and it looked like everything was going exactly as they wanted. The king rigged every little detail of her world just to make sure she was always right where he could reach her. Wisteria shouts to the staff that everything is finally ready to go. She makes it clear that the future queen is officially here and tells everyone they better get their act together. They head back to the castle where the entire staff is lined up to welcome her, with the head maid and Fawn standing right at the front. Layla takes a second to soak it all in, her mind racing with thoughts of everyone back in the Dragon Kingdom. No surprise here, they're already locked in and ready to give it everything they've got. She's feeling super guilty for all the mess she made, but Wisteria just gives her a really kind smile. Layla says sorry for coming back so fast, but Wisteria tells her it's all good since the Dragon King wanted it this way, Fonka. One guy clears his throat and admits he was totally against the plan, but since the Dragon King forced him into it, he's just glad he gets to eat this massive meal. The Dragon King gives her a huge smile and admits he was super lonely without her miso soup, so Layla promises to keep making it for him. She promises she'll have it ready for him tonight. She hesitates for a sec, then asks if she can go say hi to the kitchen crew, and he's totally cool with it. Magenta finds her in the kitchen and instantly pulls her into a massive hug. She pulls back to give her a piece of her mind, asking if Mob's shop is okay, and if the whole Vavl situation actually went down smoothly. Taupe jumps in and tells Magenta to chill with the questions, since she's already been through way too much. Layla's face totally lights up when she spots Taupe, and she flashes him a massive smile. Taupe calls out Magenta for being super worried and out of it all day, making her blush and freak out while Layla just laughs it off. Everything is super quiet, and being in the kitchen feels like she's finally back where she belongs, right as Taupe hands her a bowl of soup and tells her to just take a second to breathe after all that craziness. She's honestly such a vibe and super sweet, even with her crazy past life memories and all that drama with Babel. Alright, there's no mistake now, this is definitely her spot. Hope says that even after she left, she tried making the soup herself, but it still wasn't good enough for the Dragon King, even though she thought her own cooking would be special. She suddenly remembers him saying she's already stolen his heart and his stomach. Just think about it. Those words back then were how the Dragon King actually felt deep down. Just thinking about it makes her face turn bright red. But then Wisteria shows up to announce that break time is over and her schedule is starting back up. The place is totally jammed, and she's got ideas for the room, the furniture, and literally everything else. Layla walks into her new room and her jaw drops when she sees it's packed with colorful dresses and super fancy furniture. She points with a shaking hand, whispering that this has to be a mistake. But Wisteria just smiles and promises her that this room is 100% hers. Layla tries to argue that she should just head back to her old maid's room, but Wisteria shuts her down, saying the whole place has already been cleared out. Layla wonders why she's being so formal all of a sudden, but Wisteria reminds her that she's officially done being a servant. The king just ordered everyone to treat her like the future queen, and Layla is standing there completely frozen in shock. He was totally shocked. Is the king actually being serious right now? Right then, the Dragon King himself shows up and tells Layla that this is officially her room starting today. Layla shouts his name, sounding totally panicked, but he just keeps on going. He admits he had no clue what she liked, so he let Wisteria and the others set up the room based on their advice. Layla screams that her heart literally can't keep up with how fast things are changing with the king's. King's eyes go soft and a bit sad as he tells her he's dead serious about her being his queen, asking if he was the only one thinking about it while she just stands there totally overwhelmed. She blurts out that she's hyped to live in a castle again, but she still sees herself as a servant, so being told she's the new queen would honestly just stress her out. The king stops to think for a second and says it's totally fine as long as it doesn't happen out of nowhere. He tells her to level up her feelings and study hard so she can finally start acting like a total queen, and then he says he'll wait until she finally catches feelings too, and then he just walks away, but she's not going anywhere. They don't even have a clue how to make those feelings happen. The next morning, she's totally out cold and dreaming away, until a sudden, Mila May gives her a gentle shake to wake her up, but she just groggily mumbles the word magenta while she's still half asleep. She finally snaps her eyes open and sees two total strangers staring right at her. The maid introduces herself as Sheena and says she's officially starting her new job today, while the others... Then there's Claret, and Sheena points to the wardrobe, telling her to hurry up and change while offering to help. But Layla panics and says she's got it, which... They're getting a little restless and tell her she's got to move fast because time is running out, so they jump in to help her out. They help her into this gorgeous dress, and she's honestly blown away by how she looks. Sheena's finally feeling like the total princess everyone expects her to be. Nina mumbles that breakfast is ready, and they're already running way behind. Right at the dinner table, the real training finally kicks off Fawn. He goes full teacher mode, lecturing her about her busy schedule and why history is a huge deal, even during lunch. Lunch is a total nightmare because Wisteria keeps correcting her every move, reminding her that even the way she eats is part of her training to be the queen. By mid-morning, she's already crashing onto the couch, totally wiped out. It's barely even noon, and her head already feels like it's about to crack wide open. Indigo strolls in and laughs at the state she's in, mentioning he's taking over geography class later, and even though she snaps to attention, he tells her to chill out since they're just gonna hang out and talk over some maps. He asks her if this is the very first time she's ever seen it. This kingdom is loaded because the weather is perfect for farming, and since they're surrounded by the ocean on 3 sides, their fishing and trade are absolutely booming. He points right at a spot and calls it the Kingdom of Vavl, thinking he's finally found the place. He figures she might know some of this, But she just shakes her head and explains that as a low-rank maid, she knows zero about school stuff. Indigo's eyes go wide when he says he thought everyone in Vavall knew about the magic reservoir, and that's when she realizes he's actually talking about her secret past life. Indigo points out that even though Vavl is right next door, those huge mountains make it way poorer than the Dragon Kingdom, and she asks if the queen was actually obsessed with them. He figures that's probably another big reason for it too. Vavl is actually packed with rare minerals and magic plants, and even though the rough terrain makes it a nightmare to build on, all that empty land gives it massive potential to grow. He picks up the book and asks if they should just call it a day. Right then, Wisteria walks in carrying some tea. Her heart totally drops at the thought of another boring manners class, and just as Indigo tries to bail, Wisteria orders him to stay and keep her company. Even a total boss like Indigo can't say no to his mom. Wisteria sets down some tea and snacks, telling her she can finally just relax. It's totally fine if she loses to Indigo a bunch of times, she just needs to treat him like a practice partner. Indigo goes to take a sip, but she freezes when Wisteria calls her out for holding the cup wrong and hooking her finger through the handle. Domingo shows her the perfect grip, so her fingers look totally clean and lined up, telling her she'll get it down if she just keeps practicing. Raphael might be chill about it, but their massive gap in status is a total recipe for drama. The underdogs have to grind way harder just to keep people from talking trash. Layla thinks Indigo is just a regular guy, and even though the Dragon King picked him, she knows he'll keep grinding instead of getting lazy. She knows that since she's not a big shot, she has to work twice as hard as everyone else. Indigo gives her a warm smile and reminds her that messing up is totally fine, telling her as her partner that she's got nothing to stress about. But for real, tomorrow's lessons are going to be a total nightmare. That's all for today, so smash that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed. Drop a comment below if you guys want.